events that we can just turn on our computer to watch and see. And it's great seeing legends like Shirov. I
Yeah,
did I did actually I mentioned before the stream, Daniel, that one of my best compliments I ever got. Someone once called me a poor man Shirov, another grandmaster. He just said, "You're just a poor man Shirov," after I probably swindled him in some attack. And I thought, yeah, I like that. I will just be a weak Shirov, and I'm very happy with that
thank you.
compliment. Yeah, thank you for calling me a weak
He was
Shirov.
trying to insult you deeply, and look what ended up happening.
Yeah. It's
Oh, you're
funny.
just it's like a Shakespearean insult.
That's it. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's an insult I want. He did actually. Okay, well, he has gone bishop g5. He has played this move in the game. So this, we mentioned this before, positionally very well founded, because if you can take that knight off, you will gain a position where your knight on d5 is an absolute monster, and there's nothing really that can get rid of that knight. So black here, it seems, would have to get rid of the knight now if he wants to get rid of it at all. So knight takes d5 must surely be played by black. I mean, I don't think it's been done yet, but let's have a look what could happen after pawn takes d5 and now queen d6 maybe.
Yeah, now I was thinking Shirov could maybe take the bishop and fork two of black's pawns, let's say by queen to c3, attacking both e5 and c4. And it looks like maybe black can hold that position together by sort of slyly giving up one of the two pawns, but I'm not sure how that can be done. That pawn on d5 is just so intimidating. It's not a paper tiger, that's for sure.
It's not. It could be a major pawn later on. I mean, it should be a bit better for white. This can black hold? Well, he's probably going to have to defend. You might get the ending that you want, Daniel. You might get this ending as we're going along that we've asked for.
Yep, maybe we will. Some rook endgame where Shirov converts it super clinically.
It could be. So black is deciding after bishop g5 if he's going to go for that line that was just pointed out, where he's got to find a good move after queen c3 because he has two pawns on pre. He might lose one of those pawns, but can he hold on in some rather grim ending? It doesn't look very nice, does it? After queen c3, I'm not really sure I wouldn't be comfortable here at all if I was on the black side. I wouldn't like this. I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, it seems like Santos's opening experiment has somewhat backfired, at least, and he's got more time on the clock, but that's right about the only advantage he's got in this position.
Yeah.
So.
And if he doesn't, okay, if we go back to the current position, which is after bishop g5, let's just say, to demonstrate Shirov's other idea, let's say black plays a normal looking move like rook to c8. Well, okay, maybe that's not the best move, but white's idea is to trade on f6, and then you can compare the minor pieces. Which of these guys is better?
I wonder. It's a very difficult comparison.
It is. What a monster that is here. That knight there, absolute monster.
And the black's weaknesses remain. The pawn on c4 is still weak.
Yeah.
So
there's a number of advantages here.
Two very unsavory alternatives for Santos. I mean, one alternative, he loses a pawn. The other, he yields humongous positional advantages to white. And this is what we were talking about. Shirov, positionally is not to be sneezed at. I mean, he can duel with the best of them. Santos goes for the first alternative. I don't blame him. I think that's the best chance to hold, and we see this executed.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's when you're defending, it's so hard. It's so much easier to attack than defend, and black is on the back foot, and you often have to make these quite difficult decisions. And another mistake, it's I've noticed from lower rated players, maybe a lot of people watching this, is people try to defend far too passively. They don't want to give up a pawn to get some freedom. And this line here, I think, is a very clever defense. Black must have seen this queen c3 move. He must have seen he's losing a pawn. But the other option, going completely passive and just sitting there without any chances, seemed worse. Okay, he's passive here, but he's got rid of some pieces. Rook endings, they're supposed to all be drawn. That's not true, of course, but he's got maybe better chances in this ending than he has in some of the other, some of the other positions. But I don't know what he does. I don't know what he does here, though. Saying that, I still don't like it. I don't like it at all.
It's some of the most miserable games you play where you just know I mean, you almost want to resign. Some part of you wants, but then you can save this game if you defend well. But
Yeah.
you're just sitting there miserable.
Yeah.
Watching your opponent think about his 7 possible ways to convert the advantage,
It's
praying.
not. Yeah. It's just not a nice position to be in, is it? When you're defending like this, and you're playing. They say it for 2 results. You're playing either you're not going to win this as black. You're either playing. You're trying to grovel a draw, but you might also win, lose as well.
Yeah, but I think one of my favorite authors, Jonathan Rowson from Scotland, actually, he calls it the goalkeeper's glory. Sometimes when you're defending, you put on the goalkeeper hat. You're not going to score any goals, but you might score some saves, and that's exhilarating in its own right.
Certainly, brilliant author actually, Jonathan
Yep.
Rowson. Your favorite book? I mean, he's done a number. I mean, 7 Deadly Sins. Is
Chess
it?
for Zebras. Yep, 7 Deadly
Yep.
Chess Sins. I have both of them. Love them to death. Amazing explanation of the role of psychology in chess. He's also a philosopher and incredibly well read, and some of the best writing I've ever read in chess and non-chess. Just incredible.
Indeed. So go and check out his books if you want to add another one to your library. Queen d6 played, and now white has the option. Which pawn does he grab? I'm assuming taking on c4 is probably the way to go. You take over the c file. You might be able to come to c6 with your queen. That looks more natural. You can, of course, you can maybe go with. I mean, do you want to play queen takes? I mean, how's this ending? We could have a look at this because you're forcing the position more with queen takes e5.
Yeah, but the issue I see is this counter idea of taking on e5, maybe going rook to b8.
Yeah.
Now, technically, that does not attack the b2 pawn because of the back rank issues, but black has this thrust with c3 that exploits white's back rank. So it might get a little bit drawish, or maybe white can win this with some concrete series of moves. I don't know. But from a practical perspective, queen takes c4. I'm on the same page with it. Just looks a little bit more
safer. There's an interesting line here. If you try to play d6, and then you can't take here because of rook to e8 checkmate. So you can try c3, and now white can't take here because this will be checkmate. So after c3, white just goes, okay, I'll continue here.
Now black can't take it.
and that's right. And now black can't take here because a rook to e8 will lead to checkmate with the back rank. So you get this very bizarre sequence after d7. What does black play? He probably plays. Black loses because you can't play
rook e8.
Rook e8 and
you trade off in winning pawn in game.
Yeah, this is very easily winning with the extra pawn. So that's a very, very strange line. This d6.
And rook takes e5. Actually, he's gone for a third option.
Okay.
And rook to e4. So we will, I think, see a rook endgame. He's probably going to take on c4 with the queen.
Yeah.
And that I would probably say is about a 50-50 endgame. I mean, these all are. They've been studied in books like the Dvoretsky Endgame Manual, which greater men have read, but I don't know. I mean, I think in a rapid game, it's super hard to defend these positions. And again, it's just so miserable. You have no chances of winning the game. You're just sitting there trying to grind out a draw.
Definitely. I mean, it does. I think, as a practical sense. I mean, you could take the rook on. No, you can't take the rook on c4. What am I saying? Oh dear, because of queen to d1. So you have to, I would assume, go for this ending. And it's really grim to defend this. I mean, I would imagine that Shirov should convert this one as well. You got a couple of ideas. I mean, the a6 pawn is a little bit weak, but the white king naturally comes over towards your pawns. White can try to get a pass pawn at the right moment by playing b5. When you do get a pass pawn and a rook and pawn ending, you want to try to get your rook behind that pass pawn, and then you'll be winning, as has been shown in some famous endings. This is always the thing to bear in mind. Let's just put some moves on the board. These moves probably won't happen, but I want to just demonstrate an ending. Okay, I'm just going to put some moves on. When you get this outside pass pawn, of course, this is a bad version because of the back rank. But in these positions, you also have to think where you want your rook. When you have the pass pawn, the best square is behind it, generally. The second best square is next to it, generally. And then the worst square is in front of it. But also the defender's got to think where he wants his rook. And generally in front of the pawn is pretty bad because it's not very active. And you want to, if you can get your rook behind the pawn, let's say to b2, you've got very good drawing chances. All this is a little bit hypothetical, but we could easily see things developing into that position with these two pawns later on in the ending. If white needs to do it, maybe white won't need to do it. Maybe his king will come and defend c2 in such an ending like this. And when your king defends, comes over, the rook is quite free to sort of start activating. I mean, I really just don't like. I mean, this ending so grim to defend.
Very well explained too. But I mean, white's got so many ways to finagle that queenside pawn majority, and black needs to defend precisely against every single option. Shirov is thinking probably about going rook d4 preliminarily and chasing the queen away, but I'm not sure what benefit that has, because after that you're going to end up taking on c4 anyway. So it might be worth not burning this much clock trying to sort of, deal with tiny differences in your endgame advantage. I really don't think it's gonna make a difference.
I mean, do you think there's any argument that Shirov's saying that he wants to avoid the exchange of queens? So let's say you go rook d4. He wants to take here with the rook, and then maybe try to take advantage of this f6 move by later on, keeping the queens on the board. I mean, I don't really see it either. Let's say queen e5 here, not threatening anything, and then I don't know, I don't see any advantage in this either. I think taking on c4, saving time, seems much more sensible.
Yeah, and from personal experience, these queen and rook against queen and rook endgames, they're not too often studied, but the counterplay can come so fast, and all these perpetuals, you can never abandon your king. So again, I think queen takes c4 is such a, and you have so many attempts to win the game there. That to me, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. Take the queens off, try to play the ending, and see what happens.
Maybe this will be another addition to the collection of Shirovs. I'll retroactively input it into my my project from about 10 years ago.
Yeah, your Shirov's best endings.
I still have that chess-based file somewhere gathering dust, but
be an interesting little project, that one, definitely. People would like to see that. So
I think I wrote a Chess.com article, Shirov's best endgames as well, that was based on that. That was a couple of years ago. So yeah, the guy is a legend, basically.
He is. And of course, you can search that, I'm sure, on Google if you look for Daniel's articles.
I would never recommend my own article, though. Let's take that from the record.
I've read some of your articles. They're all very, very good. So well worth trying to find, and they're free to read as well. I mean, you don't you don't spend, you don't have to buy a book. You can read them for free. So
right.
Yeah. Okay, so we have this, and now black is trying to get active with the rook. The most key thing in a rook ending is to get your rook as active as you possibly can. And is he able to now do that? G3 played. Okay, well, I thought maybe the king should come, but G3, a very sensible way to do things as well.
Rook D2 now activating the rook.
And he's got his rook active. How do they look on the camera? I'm trying to look at the body language, but they're not really giving much away. And I think, I mean, the thing that is playing a little bit against Shirov is that his rook, if you remember what we said earlier, he's probably going to have to exchange the pawn on a5 for one of his pawns by playing, let's say, b4. And then his rook would like to be behind his passed pawn, but that's not very possible. It's probably going to be next to it. And black's rook is very active. So it's not easy. I mean, I say I wouldn't like to defend this, but the more I'm looking at it,
it's 50. I think it's really 50-50. I mean, G5 is a very good move too. That's a very typical move in these positions, which basically immobilizes white's pawns on the king side. And later on, black could even freeze them with G4. That's also very committal in its own right. But yeah, I mean, also the time situation is not Shirov's friend. And what will end up probably happening is the exchange of the A pawn for the B pawn. Shirov's then going to drop his rook to A8 and push that A pawn up to A6 or A7 and try to win that position. And, you never know whether that's winning or drawing.
Should be a theoretical draw or feel those kind of things, but it's so hard to say. You're totally right about G5. This is a move that a lot of players have missed. And black often tries to draw these positions by, at some point, white brings his king over this way to help his passed pawn, and then the black king will try to come in and somehow do this on the king side. Well, we might see something like this. And you're right, this ending's probably going to be reached after rook here. He's gone b3. Okay. Now rook b2 seems natural.
Yep. Got to tie yourself to that pawn.
Can you also try king c1? Very risky idea.
I was thinking about that actually. Yeah. The problem is black's going to preemptively approach his, push his own pawns, maybe h5, h4.
Yeah.
So that they start running very fast.
And black's creating very good counterplay on this area of the board. So
right.
Let's say, Shirov has, I guess, two choices. He can either take this pawn and go into this ending, where his rook, as the attacker, is actually in maybe one of the worst cases. If you had it on a1, you'd be winning because you can just throw this pawn down the board. But in this kind of position, it's not easy. You can go, you can put your rook on a8 and push, but then black's rook gets in the best defensive position behind the pawn, which is very good drawing chances. And you often need to get your king over here to help support your pawn. But as soon as that happens, black gets the counterplay.
Yeah,
so it's not easy.
There's an old Russian joke. Whenever I start the sentence by saying there's no Russian, prepare not to laugh. It's not funny. But essentially, the joke is this endgame with the a pawn is winning for black in a blitz game, because eventually white's going to start pushing his king up to the queen side, and he's going to give up all these pawns, and he's eventually going to lose. So there's this, you don't just want to take a draw, you want to make an attempt, but that always gives black that counterplay once he starts picking off the kingside pawns.
Yeah. You could lose if you try to push too hard in any position.
Right.
That's a problem. He's gone h4. That's interesting because you generally don't touch the pawns around your king side, but I think he's using that to get this kind of stop the black king activating, and maybe he will go for this plan. So we saw plan number one was to take here, go to other one. The other plan that we thought might be possible at some point is to go king f1, king e1, king d1, go here. And we could just put some moves on the board, I don't know, to see how this will go. I'm not really sure. I think black is very quick in these positions, maybe even f4. Maybe. I'm not sure about f4 because you might change plans. But
yeah,
the idea
something to that effect.
This doesn't look right. I want to go here, force this rook away from b3, and then take here with two connected passed pawns. But this is so slow. Rook takes f2, get this kind of ending. I don't know. It looks very slow somehow for Shirov.
Yeah, or you wait for the king to go to c1 and then you take. Yeah, it's just too. I agree.
Very slow plan. So he's trying to. Okay, so he's gone king f5. G2. He's maybe coming around this way. This is how he's going to activate his king. And now we have f5. Black using those pawns on the king side at the same time.
Right. Interesting. So he's taking sort of the active approach, which we discussed, preemptively pushing his pawns up.
Yeah.
HG. So trade of pawns. So it's they're trending toward that position. We you kind of pointed out, Simon. King f3.
Looks like it. Yeah. And now I'm assuming king e3. Shirov's going to have to make this decision at some point. Does he take the pawn, or is he going to try to give up the f2 pawn? What would you do here? Which of those plans? Could you go king e3 and f3 first? Put your pawn on f3? Is that what he's trying to do? Something like this?
So interesting.
Doesn't lose this one?
Yeah, and then you kind of mobilize that king towards c3. You buy yourself time by putting these pawns on temporarily protected squares. Very interesting. I haven't seen too many applications of this particular idea. It's a very interesting pawn structure on the queen side. I think at this point he's already committed to that. Like, he has to try that, otherwise, taking on a5 now wouldn't make much sense, would it?
It doesn't seem right to take on a5. I don't know. It feels wrong. Your king's in the wrong place. You swapped a pair of pawns. This should be quite easy for black to hold. I think this ending. I think you're right. That white's idea will be to play f3, and now try to get the king to c3 at the right time. Potentially even playing g4 is another idea.
f3 played.
You can think about. F3 has been played. Shirov 10 minutes down on the clock.
Yeah, he is. And Santos not showing any signs of slowing down.
No. And he's just decided to sit and wait now with king f6. He's basically saying, okay, I can't really do much more of my position. I'm going to sit and wait. Shirov now trying to push that king back.
Ooh.
With rook to b6.
I think king e5 needs to be played, because if you play if you played king e7, then king d4 would have been possible. And so this is safe for f4. So he is going for that idea, I think. King d3 coming up.
And now this one, mate. Okay, so he's checked first.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I mean, well, Black's going to pick off that F pawn. White's going to
Can,
have connected passers. So,
can you go king d4 here maybe as well? I
ooh,
mean,
rook b6, king e5.
yeah, with the idea of just getting the king into this key square here. So let's have a look.
Uh-huh.
So if you go king d4, the idea is to check the black king away from its defensive e5 so the white king can come in. So something like rook f2 should be losing for black. You check, and then, I don't know, let's say the king comes in, we win this pawn. So probably we'll see if any moves have been played. No, white hasn't played king d4. Probably you have to go rook d2 check first, yeah? Is that right?
Yeah, but that saves the tempo for white. Then king c3, and then every tempo is worth its weight in gold here.
Yeah. Well, we might well be seeing a Shirov endgame speciality here, yeah. The way he's doing this. I mean, king d4
really
looks
finessing
very
this,
tempting.
yeah.
Yeah. Order, and he's played king d4, so his king has come in. With this, the major threat now is this rook b6 check, king e5, and then you must be winning. You're going to win a second pawn.
Oh,
the game.
No, so black plays rook d2. He has to do it.
Yeah.
This should be winning for white, I would imagine, but it really is never easy in rook endgames, and you just never know what the objective evaluation is.
No. Could you even go king c5? This is another thing, and maybe. Does that help at all? Probably not. I'm thinking king c5 and b4 but maybe that.
It's interesting. I mean, you could play king c5 and then still take on a5 and basically use that king to support the b pawn. That's another idea. The drawback of that, well, the king could get misplaced later on. So who knows?
It's one of those things. This is really hard when you get these decisions in the king and pawn. Any ending. What kind of position do you want to go for? Do you take this pawn? What do you go for? And kind of experience is one way that you guys will learn of the right maneuver. I mean, we've basically white's always had this option of taking a5, but I think, as we explained, a lot of those are always drawn. So Shirov is trying to avoid trading both of these pawns in red, taking them off the board. This is what he's trying to avoid, to keep as many winning chances as he can. But he's got to make a decision now. Which way does the king go? If you go to c3, then something like rook f2, rook takes a5, rook takes f4 is an ending where, of course, you can hope to win for white because you have the two passed pawns. I don't know if this is a win or not. Black's pawn is also quite quick. The other way you can try to play this ending is go king c5 when your king is just coming around to take here. So black should probably play rook f2. And now you can, well, it looks like this might be a better way of doing it. Your king could be a better place on c5 than c3. I wanted to play b4 here originally, hoping that you take and then go here. And this looks winning to me. King b6.
King c3 played, by the way.
King c3 played. Okay, we'll stick with the game. So he's gone for this ending, and this is the current position after. Oh, he's got it. Oh, that's clever. Another little tempo.
Very clever. Yeah? So many of these small finesse type of moves. Rook f3 check. He wants to take on f4 with check, or he wants to push the king back to b2.
Yeah.
Now, my concern here from black's side would be if white simply, moves his king back and then cuts off black's king preemptively with something like rook c5 and then just says, I'm going to push that a pawn. And he keeps his king on b1 to stop any attempts, in that zone, to stop any attempts by black to catch the pawn from behind.
Right. I like it. Yeah. So, I mean, we said earlier, when your opponent has a passed pawn, you often want to get your rook behind that passed pawn. But with a king on c2, you're covering a lot of the squares that the black rook might want to get to. And he does have a very easy plan. I like these easy plans. Okay, well, he's decided to go this way. The other plan is just to get the king. These two pawns can look after themselves. This is when you have connected pawns, you don't really need to support them. You can just go boom, boom. Yep. They can just go up the board and slowly, get to the right squares.
Snake their way up the board.
Snake their way up, yeah. It must be winning for white, this. It must be, surely.
It's got to be, yeah. I've had a couple similar endgames that ended up being draws. I remember one game I played actually in Spain. Very similar pieces. I had the A and B pawns, and I was like, okay, this is easily winning. But it got to, somehow he froze the progression of my pawns with his king. So, the minute and 55 seconds also concerns me because, white could get to a point where he has to find only moves to win. So a5 here, I guess f4 has been played, black using the only resource that he has.
It's interesting to see that black is now trying to get his king in front of those pawns or as near to the white pawns as he can, hoping that the king will be able to deal with them. On the other hand, Shirov, when you've got this position, it's a very easy way. You just go like pawn, pawn, rook, check. So let's just say we don't do anything, or we put the rook behind one of those pawns at some point. I don't know how, but the pawns can, as we say, look after themselves. You literally go like this, and you just keep pushing them up one square at a time until they become queen. So it's not even hard to do. It must be winning for white. This, I mean, I don't see how black can stop these pawns. Of course, if black ever moves the rook away, white's going to gain that pawn on f4 with a very easily technical winning position. So the black rook is kind of tied down to the defense there of this pawn. But at some point, I don't see it's going to have to come to the a file, isn't it? So it must be.
Yeah.
Winning. Yeah.
Right. So my only question would be a position where, oh yeah. No, that doesn't even work. Yeah, I don't see a defensive approach here that black could take. So, he's also he's in Zugzwang here. I mean, he does not have if he had a passing move right now, it would be harder for white to make progress. But he's either got to move his king away from making contact with the rook, or he's got to give up the f pawn. So it's winning. It's got to be winning.
It's got to be winning. Yeah. So I mean, interesting for the match. For those of you who are wondering about the format here, we had the first round already where Shirov lost and Jamie Santos took the lead. So it looks like Shirov's going to win this one, bring the score to 1 game all with 2 more games at the same time limit to go. If it's still tied after the 4 games, it will go to blitz and then playoff, and then into the final, and the final's taking place on the Sunday. So equal, I think white should be winning this one. Santos will have his last white, maybe, of this section anyway, in the next game. Would he play the exchange Slav again? I don't know. Shirov always seems to play the Slav with black nowadays. And
he used to play the Benoni as well. I'm hoping for a tactical slugfest. But we got, we got our share of entertainment in the first game. The second game has been a story of, I think, a poor opening choice. And Santos never came anywhere near equalizing, really.
No, it's kind of he's made it look quite smooth, Shirov, this game. I mean, he got an advantage. He's transformed it into an extra pawn, and now he's converting it in the ending, which is a normal way that these top players win. Black having a long thing. So let's just see. Okay, if I go king c6, Daniel, show me how you win this one. I mean,
yeah. By the way, several moves I think have been played. Like Shirov has gotten his pawn to b4. Okay.
Sorry, let's have a look.
No worries.
Yeah, they have updated, and those pawns are coming forwards. Yeah,
I mean, much as expected. Simply a6. Nothing to write home about. Yeah, this is over. I mean, b5 again. Yeah. Black is just Black is going to end up with a situation eventually where he's going to have to give up the f pawn, and that situation has just arrived. Yeah. Okay, now b5. Goodbye.
They're just going up slowly. It's funny how I've always thought it's funny how this one king can keep control of this pawn and the rook in front of it. For example, let's say we go b5, you go f2. You're not even threatening anything as black here. This king can always take this, and after king e2, you're going to win the f pawn anyway because you're attacking the rook.
Exactly.
Quite easily winning now. I think king c5 played,
a7 and b6. A7. Much like we pointed out, sort of the pawns taking care of themselves together with the rook. You don't need the king in the vicinity. And king takes f3. I think we're going to see resignation any moment. I mean, you could play b6 here. You don't even need to take the pawn, but that's the safest option.
Get rid of that pawn. Might as well. And he's snaking, Daniel, as you said, b6 and rook b8, yeah? They're snaking up the board there.
Slow but steady wins the race, and it has just won the race as we see Santos resigning his game.
Nice endgame play. Very nice endgame play from Shirov there, Daniel.
Indeed. Another one in the collection. At some point we were doubting if he'd be able to pull it off, but he found the right plan. Got that a pawn while preserving his passers, and then pushed them all the way to the end.
Definitely. So we're gonna take another short break now, and we'll be back with round 3 of this 4-game semi-final, when Santos is going to have the white pieces again. White's won every game so far, so it's going to be interesting to see if White can win again. Stay tuned for that game, the opening session. We'll be back in a very short time. See you then. Well, welcome back. We're actually straight into the action yet again. So this is round three of this semi-final match between the legendary Shirov and the young pretender Jamie Santos. And it's started already with Jamie having the advantage of the white pieces, and they followed the same opening they had in the first game with the exchange Slav, and they're following the moves from the first game with Shirov again repeating his b5 idea and bishop to b7. So it did seem that white got a slight advantage in this line before until it got incredibly crazy later on in the game. And maybe white now thinking if he's going to repeat that same sort of opening. And white's plan before was like h3 to avoid knight h5, castles, bishop d3, queen to this square, and probably eventually play a4. So I wonder, is this wise for Shirov to repeat this line? Do you think?
Well, I think they have. I think h3, e6, and castles has been played.
Okay. Yeah.
And Shirov, I I wonder if they reviewed this line in the 5-minute break that they had. Um, I don't think that this was necessarily bad for Black, and I think Shirov is one of those guys who believes in his openings. So from the point of view of principle, I don't think it's easy to make him shy away from something. So he's going to try to improve his play.
Okay, so well, I mean, his idea with knight b4 and knight e4, it seemed okay to start with, didn't it? I mean, it seemed like a very active solution to the position. He's gone bishop d6 this time. Before, did he put the bishop on e7? He
I
did.
think he
So this
did.
is
Yeah, bishop e7.
so this is his first attempt at his first attempt at gaining a better position than he did in the first game. The normal move to this would always be knight e5. I mean, I'd play knight e5 without thinking here, I think, just to plonk that in the center of the board. But okay, he's taken on d6.
Probably rook. His idea may be reverting to something we discussed: rook c1, and then try to get one of the knights to c5. Either that f3 knight travels through e1 and d3 to get to c5, or the c3 knight drops back to b1, and then a maneuver that we're familiar with: knight d2, knight b3, knight c5. So I can't really see any other sources of active. I mean, a4. Okay, so he's going for this idea. You brought this one up, Simon, in the previous game. In the game one, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of normal now to get this knight around. I mean, this is another way it can go to come into one of these two squares. It's all about this sort of c5 square. Can white get a knight to that piece and just have a small advantage? And you can see that white is maneuvering the knight around to try and gain control of that square. And this is where white's attempt at gaining an advantage is coming from. Do you ever play e5 in these positions? I'm wondering, because if you're going to play it, you should play it now whilst white is a little bit behind. Changing pawn structure is always a little bit risky because, in this kind of thing, you're giving yourself another potential issue, which is the isolated pawn on d5. But I'm hoping to get some activity from considering that one. It didn't happen, Daniel. It happened. It didn't look like it happened. No,
knight a5. Yeah, I kind of like moves like e5. They yield certain positional concessions, but you get something resembling an initiative. Knight a5 instead by Shirov, and he's probably going to meet knight d3 with knight d7 or knight e4. Of course, he really doesn't want to allow white's knight to land on c5. I think that would signal that something has gone wrong for black in the opening.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. If the white knight can get its way to that square, white it's certainly got an advantage in those positions. What is it like? So if I try, let's go knight d3, and now to defend this square, black, as Daniel pointed out, will have to either go to e4 to cover that square, or to go to d7 to cover that square. E4 is a bit more active, but when you move a piece into your opponent's half of the board, it also becomes a little bit more vulnerable, and maybe it can be kicked away. I don't know if that's the case though. You can't play f3 in these positions with a pawn on h3 because the g3 square becomes very weak.
Point.
So we're trying to go for the active move if we can. I think here, knight to e4 potentially, and now maybe knight d2, something like this.
But then maybe takes a knight b3. That's another perk of having your knight on a5, and a drawback of playing a4.
Oh, certainly, yeah. Good. This b3 square, yeah. So we can't get rid of this knight here because of the tactical reason of coming knight b3, and this time white would have lost the exchange and probably the game. Okay, well, let's go back. What's happened here? No more moves after knight to a5. White is trying to think of as a way to gain an advantage here.
Right. Yeah. And this is the type of position where you'd want to invite Karpov over for a nice little discussion. He's got knight b3. Captures. I mean, it really looks like white has gotten absolutely nothing from the opening. I mean,
yeah,
you could play knight e4 here. You could play a5. Yeah, that's what he does. A5, potentially go bishop a6. This does look like an exchange slot now.
it's everything's getting exchanged off, isn't it? It's kind of. I mean, I know I play the exchange Slav, and you mentioned this as well. It's kind of a pity in some ways we're seeing this. Me and Daniel both love attacking, and one of the lines that Shirov's very famous for is this crazy Botvinic variation of the semi-Slav, which is probably the most craziest opening of all openings, isn't it? I mean, it's mind-bendingly weird, I think.
It is so irrational, and it's one of the most fun actually to analyze the games of so many brilliant moves in the Botvinic.
Yeah, but we're not getting that today. We might have a chance to show the opening variation at the end of this game, because it's something that Shirov plays a lot, and you guys might be interesting as playing possibly as black,
Yeah, at the top level, it's one of those lines that has been analyzed to death by, engines just go to town when they see the Botvinic, like boom, 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 draw.
yeah, it really is. You have to have a good memory for those kind of things.
Oh yeah,
certainly. Is this why you play? So I've noticed your games, Daniel. When you're playing now, you play this Jabava London system, and you're kind of the world's leading. I'd say the world's leading expert in it. It seems. Well, okay, Magnus Carlsen plays it, and some other guys, but you play it loads on Chess.com. Do you play that because you just want to get a simple position without memorizing lots of theory? As the opening does tend to gravitate towards not memorizing lines when you play that way.
Yeah, that's one of the top reasons. Another is I think it's just, I mean, some of the structures are relatively new to people, and some of white's play can really be underestimated. I think there's a couple lines where the position looks very symmetrical. There's one where basically the bishops are traded on d3, and white doubles his pawns in the center, but he gets the c file. And, a person looks at this position with an untrained eye and says, it's just complete equality. But white has, in many of those positions, tremendous pressure. So to me, it's one of those openings that are underestimated. I think black can equalize in many ways. That's not a secret, but black needs to know exactly what he's doing. And I've played it over the board now a fair amount as well, and the results have been good. So, I'm probably going to take that opening to my grave.
That's good to hear. I mean, I love the Jabava London system as well. I've done a bit of work in myself, and it's weird because you don't really get new openings or new opening setups, and this is one of the sort of modern openings that's only become popular probably in the last 10 years. So you just don't get that, Okay, so more exchanges happening. Bishop
Riveting
a6.
Position. Very asymmetrical pawn structure.
Yeah. Can we just go and show one of Shirov's other games in the Botvinic, the Botvinic
exactly.
Let's just pretend they played a different game here. I mean, there's not much to report here, guys. I mean, I don't. Most pieces will probably get exchanged. I mean, no one's got an advantage really here, have they? I mean, I can't see why either side.
Well, I think insofar as one could split hairs, I think white, that b5 square, my eye keeps getting drawn to it. If white gets a queen on b5, there's no equivalent square for black because the b4 square is occupied by the pawn. I feel like maybe that lends a tiny edge to white. And so if I had to say but it should be insignificant if Shirov is careful.
We could see this idea of the white queen activating on that square over there. Well, okay, black's trying to get all the pieces off the board. White keeping them on.
Succeeding.
So, yeah. Knight d3 at least shows a little bit of ambition from white. White saying, okay, I'm gonna keep those guys on for the time being. Not much ambition, just a little bit.
Queen a6 looks interesting here, pinning that knight. Maybe implicitly suggesting a queen trade with knight f4, and wow, I mean, this does look super drawish.
It must be a draw, mustn't it? Yeah. I mean, in symmetrical positions, it's either who's got the better pieces or if someone has a slight weakness, and both sides have their pieces developed. There's not really many weaknesses. The only things you could say is on the queen side is a5 weak, not really. The b5 square, Daniel's pointed out, but white can't really use that anymore. c5, if you get your knight there, great, but it's defended at the moment. It should be heading towards a draw. And if we look at the match situation, a draw is a good result for Alexei because this is round 3 of 4, and white has won every game so far. So it gives Alexei the chance in the next game with the white pieces to win and go forwards in the competition towards the final.
And he's so good with white. I mean, he's so dangerous in those Rai Lopez positions. And in the last game, Santos did not exactly, fill us with confidence as to his ability to neutralize that.
He's going to have to play a different opening. The problem with this, because there's not much time to prepare in between rounds and find out what mistake you had. If you get the same opening that Santos had, he knows it was bad. What's he going to do? He has to think of something else. It's just not easy to play. So, I'm going to show the Bovnik system. Do you think that's okay, Daniel? Shall we do it?
I give you my seal of approval. That's total. I think everybody will forgive us.
Okay. Look, we'll come back to this game if anything happens. But at the moment, it's not so exciting. So we were talking about this opening that Shirov is very famous for. And this is when, white does not take on this square, but let's say brings out this knight, brings out the other knight, and now e6. And this is what's called the semi-Slav variation. One of the most exciting lines now is if white plays bishop to g5, pinning that knight, and now black decides, I'm going to win that pawn. White grabs the center by getting these 2 pawns into that position there. Very nice. And if he can win his pawn back on c4, he's bound to have a little advantage. So black has to really defend that pawn. And now it might look like white can win a piece by playing e5. And that knight is in trouble. So black has to try to break the pin, h6, bishop to h4. And again, you have to try to break the pin, g5. And now the main line goes knight takes g5. Oh, I wish we'd have seen this. This would have been so much more fun.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Do you know, I actually played in this position once. I'm sure you know the line, but I played knight d5 here as a surprise one. This is
I've heard of. I don't know any theory here. That's interesting. Is it any good?
No.
Thanks for your honesty.
The main line here goes, and I just want to show you a very fun line while they play on for their draw. The main line goes knight takes f7, queen takes here, knight takes h8, absolute bonkers. And black is the exchange and pawn down, but he tries to prove some compensation by activating loads of his pieces, like something crazy like this. And I just wanted to show one move. Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. I mean, I probably haven't got the moves precisely right here, but it's something completely mad along these lines. And what are we going to do here? I don't know. We take here, something like this. And you just get absolute mad position. I wanted to show you there's a little queen h3 move I'm trying to make work.
Oh, right. I was like, I'm pretty sure I think I know where you're going, but it's hard to orchestrate because that stupid bishop on e2 comes out to g4.
That's right. I mean, I
guess knight f4 and then,
I just want to get queen. As soon as I get queen h3, I'm happy to go back to the boring game. So
right, exactly. You've got your fill.
Yeah, I've had my fun. I mean, let's just say
one queen h3 wins for black here, I think,
Sorry?
Yeah, queen h3 just wins.
Queen h3 is the winning move. I mean, taking on g2 is quite tempting, but there's this beautiful idea that's happened in a couple of games. Yeah, this move. And that's up Shirov's neck of the woods, yeah.
So. Oh, yeah, he loves that kind of stuff. He'd play that move in an instant while skydiving, queen h3.
While skydiving, yes. I like it. And
he'll shout out to the queen h3.
Queen h3, off we go. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's the kind of move he definitely sees in his sleep. I like the idea of doing it skydiving as well, but I've seen this kind of thing happen. But complete madness anyway, those openings.
Maybe white does have a resource, though. Bishop
h5. Oh,
and then king f8, knight g6. It just shows you how rich these positions are.
I know. Getting rid of that piece, and then actually maybe white's winning.
That actually is incredible.
Because you're diverting that knight. This bishop h5. What a move! What a move!
And also queen takes f4 check after king f8 is also good.
Right. Yeah.
So it looks like black has to take that bishop, and we've got pandemonium.
And then white sort of surviving again. Yeah. So anyway. Okay, I thought we just had to digress a little bit there, yeah. So
craziness, yeah. No, but I have some breaking news for you, Simon. We missed a lot. Really have missed
Okay.
a lot. Shirov is
Okay.
still thinking about his move after knight e3.
Oh, you got me excited there. And so nothing's happened at all, no?
Not a zero.
Oh, okay. Oh, not that exciting after all. Is he
I
thinking because
don't
he
know.
thinks,
He's agonizing over something. I mean, queen a6
yeah,
to me looks very sensible because it defends the c8 square and it pins the knight. But who knows in what depth
yeah.
depths of the woods Shurov's mind is right now. Maybe he's thinking about rook c4. I don't know.
Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so the current position, Shirov in a deep think here. Yeah, you got to try. I mean, getting in the mind of Shirov is not easy. I'd imagine you spent a couple of days with him. Yeah, I like the way you said that it was even fascinating watching him order for dinner. I
Yeah,
found
it
that,
really is. He's just a fascinating character, and
you know,
yeah,
he is a fascinating character. Yeah,
we were in a restaurant, so the waitress or whatever is like, yeah, what would you like? Sure, I'm orders, and I'm like sitting there, wow, and then it's my turn to order, but I was just sitting there for 1 minute, kind of just, wow, he got the spaghetti with meatballs. Oh my goodness, that's fascinating. I'll have the botvinnik spaghetti.
the Bovanik spaghetti all over the place, messy
Exactly.
food,
Yeah,
messy position.
Botvinnik is like the spaghetti. Is like spaghetti.
Yeah. I mean, he is he's just a real character. He's like certain people like Ivanchuk, like Shirov. You see them, and they have this aura of energy around them as well.
Mm-hmm.
He certainly has this energy around him when he's everyday life, but at the board as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Kasparov as
it
well.
does look
Very intimidating.
it's very hard to play these guys. Yeah, it's very easy to get intimidated. It does look like the camera's frozen on him. Someone just mentioned this in the chat. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
Is he actually? What's he doing? He's frozen.
He's blinking, so I do think he's just
He's,
sitting in the same position for like 20 minutes now.
I think he's using Morse code, saying, "Someone help me!" Blinking
Exactly.
like they're doing when help me. Okay. Well, I mean, you mentioned rook c4. Maybe we'll have a look at rook c4. So let's say the rook comes into c4. Um, is this potentially why he's spending so much
Well,
time?
the idea is if white plays b3, then
Sure.
there's a familiar idea, rook c3. And the question
Yeah.
then is, well, if white captures on c3, is that pawn on c3 a strength or a weakness? I would bet, a silver dollar that's probably what Shirov's trying to evaluate here. He has queen a6 in his back pocket to make a draw, but he's trying to figure out whether he can go for more.
So he's wondering if he should play for a win. Interesting. And is that pawn a weakness or a strength? I don't know. But
I don't think Shirov does either. So he's trying to figure that out.
He's trying to work
I
this
would
one
not
out.
go for it if I was black, just from a practical perspective of
Yeah.
having white the next game.
Yeah.
You got to factor that in, right? I mean, you don't want to use those arguments too much, but it is important.
Yeah, I mean, a draw with black in the match situation, it's 1-1. There's one game to go after this one. Shirov has white, and if he gets the same sort of opening he had in the last game, he will get a lovely position to play. So it is very risky doing something like this. If you lose the pawn on c3, you're going to lose the game more likely than not.
Exactly.
Which is dangerous, and he's still thinking by the looks of it. But should we show some other openings? Should we give a little lecture while he thinks about his move?
Let's do it.
I don't know. Have you got any openings you'd like to? I'll tell you what. Let's show.
We can show what the
London
Jabava
system.
London is exactly. Great minds think alike.
By the way, he has played Queen A6, which is more the drawing line. It looks like, I think so. Okay, so the Jabava London, and this is that Daniel's really given a lot to the world in this opening, and I've learned a lot from this. It's basically when you go d4 and you play knight c. Do you play knight c3 next? I play it on move 2, but you can play it on move 3 as well.
You can play it on move 3. Yeah, that's the more London move order. But I usually play knight c3 moves 2. I have played it with the London system move order as well.
So after this one, let's say you go knight to c3, knight to f6. This is a really modern concept because it's always thought you have to put the pawn in front of the knight, or if you play the London system, the pawn where the knight is. And this is kind of the modern day sort of Jabava London. Daniel's an expert. And I think the line you were talking about where you take on d3, and I've sort of studied some of your lines, Daniel, is after this and after some line like this, where you go bishop d3 eventually. Is this what you were mentioning?
Yeah, exactly. Earlier? Well, a lot of people play this with f3, g4, but I've started playing this even without f3. Just go e3, bishop d3, and it looks like the most drawish line of all time. How can this give any chances? But the reality is after bishop takes, pawn takes, White gets the c file. White gets easy passage to b3 with his queen. And I won a lot of games like this. Just putting immediate pressure on black's queen side is hard to deal with it.
It's quite interesting. So, and
So
these pawns, having double pawns in the center of the board is quite different to having double pawns in the other areas. Double pawns in the center can often be a strength because if black plays d5, we're actually going to get a structure very similar to what Shirov and Santos has at the moment.
right.
You can take here in a lot of positions and play, well, this is one idea, play d4 again. You obviously don't need to do this. And we got the exchange Slav kind of position, yeah? So
yeah, exactly. So white has that in his back pocket essentially.
Yeah.
But if white has a queen on b3, he puts even in a symmetrical pawn structure, you can put some pressure on black's position.
Yeah. So this is the Jabava. I guess it's the Jabava London where you go knight c3 and bishop f4 on these two moves. An interesting new way to play. Okay, well let's go back to the game. Queen a6 and now king f1.
King f8.
King f8. It's riveting stuff. Every move is
absolutely fascinating.
Bringing the house down.
Every move outdoes the previous one. Blow meets counter blow.
Blow for blow stuff.
King f1 and then rather than accepting the sacrificed queen, this calm king f8 follows.
They just agree a draw. I mean, you can obviously these positions are very easy to lose. Don't get me wrong, but
they are.
I mean, you just do one bad move and you lose.
Okay, I do want to share something funny. I committed the sin of turning the computer on here, and its second suggestion is, and this is the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it is very telling. It is king to g1. It just shows you how little both sides can accomplish here.
King to g1. Just go backwards and forwards. That's its top
suggestion right now. King g1.
Do you know what? I mean, if you just went king to g1 and king f1 forever, it'd be interesting to see what black do, because you can't move the knight because of knight c5. You can't really. I'd probably leave the pawn on b2 just to stop rook c3s, but you could just go backwards and forwards and say, okay, just do that. I saw one of your videos, Daniel. You can probably check this out, guys. Daniel's YouTube channel. Didn't you pre-move a six? Was it a 6-move checkmate? You pre-moved the 6 moves in advance. What kind of genius are you?
I like doing that kind of stuff. Well, it was all forced. But yeah, here pre-move king g1, except what I would do is play queen takes d3, queen takes d2. I'm not advocating for that kind of play, though. Okay, knight f4. Oh, wow. A queen trade. That is just to add more spice to a position we thought was already at its maximum tension, and yet Santos finds a way to add even more pressure to it.
Maximum spice on offer here. Yeah, okay. I mean, there's not much to say about this, is there, at the moment? So, not a great deal.
I mean, I'm anticipating a draw. In these rapid games, sometimes you want to play them out. And again, it's not that neither side can lose. Plenty of these games have gotten interesting and have been lost when one side does something rash or over presses. One side, I can play for a win. But the reality is, if neither side does anything stupid, I think it's just a draw.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me the only way one side can try to win this, at some point they're going to have to play a pawn break, because you can't do anything with your pieces. The more pieces that swap off, okay, if you go rook c1 here, this really must be a draw offer. I mean, if anything, I don't know. I mean, yeah, okay, of course it's equal, but you have to do some pawn break. And whenever you start moving your pawns, again, you can weaken your position. Can black try e5 here? Does it
probably
make any
should.
difference?
I mean, he doesn't have anything to lose. Black's king is a little bit more. Black is marginally better here, I guess, because of his, his slightly more active pawns. But again, I mean, I don't see any ways to put any further pressure on white center past e5, which has been played.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I was thinking if black goes e4, he can stop this knight getting a good square and try to get his knight to c3. But you can never get your knight to c3. And even if you do, you're not doing anything. So It's like, okay, that's the best you can get. So if the best you can get is nothing,
right, then what does that say about the position?
Exactly.
The ideal scenario, which is unachievable in and of itself, it's still a draw.
It's still a draw.
There's this funny story. I think it concerned Tarash, or somebody who really liked to play on in completely drawn positions. And he was playing somebody, or I think Tarash was on the receiving end. He was playing Lasker, one of those classics. And they reached a dead drawn position with a fortress, but I think Lasker kept playing on. And Tarash removes his own bishop from the board. And it was a position where it was still a draw. And he says, all right, Can we agree a draw now? and they did.
I remember this. It's a hilarious story. Yeah, it was a blockade. Yeah, and he literally got his bishop off the board and said, "Okay, have my bishop. It's still a blooming draw." And then the guy goes, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's great story."
It's one of those things you could do in the 19th. So like if you do that now, you're just going to be disqualified from the tournament. Like, nobody's going to find this funny anymore. But when you think about those tournaments, I guess it had its charm.
I think it's great, all this sort of sense. You've got to bring back a bit more of this.
You do. I completely agree. Completely agree.
Characters. I remember there was another one where, there's many stories like this. There was one where Bobby Fischer was playing someone and they got to an ending, and Bobby Fischer just had a rook and a knight, and his opponent just had the rook. And of course, this is a draw if you know your endings. But Bobby Fischer's opponent offered him a draw. And Bobby just said, "Well, I'm a piece up. Why are you offering me a draw? Even though it's a dead draw, it's like, don't insult me by offering me a draw. I'm the great Bobby Fischer. Don't even think about it."
Yeah.
Not to do.
Not to think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't do it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I can remember we were talking about Macau Tao, who had this reputation of being, he was a world champion, the most exciting world champion and attacking player. And there's a Grandmaster, Neil McDonald from England, who had a chance to, Neil McDonald, he's done a lot of books and stuff.
Definitely seen his books, yeah.
Many books. And he got a chance to play Tao in a game. I don't think it was as similar. It was he was a very talented player when he was a junior, and he got a chance to play him in a competition, and he was really excited about playing his hero, world champion Tao, and he studied up very sharp Sicilian, sacrificial, thinking, I'm playing Tao. It's bound to be, absolute mayhem on the board. And he got to the position with Black preparing the Sicilian, and Tao just swapped off all the pieces as quickly as he could and got straight into an ending and then ground him down and won. And he was like, "Oh, why he took off all the pieces? He's not supposed to do this," really frustrating style. And you can even see, this is it. You've got to be good at every kind of different style of chess when you're playing, as Shirov has shown in that last ending. He's great in the ending as well. They're still playing on here. Is this the right thing to do? Should they play on? Is there anything going on?
I H5 H4 has just happened, so total mayhem. This is like the game Tom McDonald. This is probably what Tom McDonald actually looked like. G5. Ooh, okay, so Shirov, he is. Let's be. I think he is trying to unbalance things to some degree, but G3, E4, F4. That's still a fortress.
It's one of those positions where I've seen this G4 move played from White sometimes.
Yep.
It just doesn't
quite work here. Yep.
No. So Shirov trying to win. He's trying to win. Obviously, they're both trying to win, but he may be, pushing a little bit here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's a little more active. So
yeah,
we've been kind of chuckling at how drawish this position is, but we also mentioned that sometimes these positions can be unbalanced, and you called it, Simon, with a pawn break, which has kind of just happened.
You have to do something, don't you, if you want to try to win? And I mean, the time situation, it doesn't. Okay, he's got enough time. You get 10 seconds to move, so it's not too bad. You don't have to worry. Yeah, it's maybe not so easy for White. One of my first thoughts, which I think is just wrong, is what happens if White just exchanges pawns. So takes here. Then I suddenly realized this might be all right, but the B3 pawn is something you're going to have to keep an eye.
Right, knight C5 becomes possible.
Knight C5 at the right moment, yeah. And even D4, you've got to watch out for this kind of thing. Black is a bit more advanced into the white position. Of course, these positions are probably a draw, but what should White do here? What's White's best way? If you're trying to draw, you want to really exchange pawns, but by taking here and taking here, you're unbalancing the position.
Well, G3, E4 has been played, by the way. Sorry to cut you off, Simon.
No, we're cool. G3, E4. Okay.
Well, what if White takes on E4 and goes G4 here? I mean, F4 seems like a dead draw. Sure. Maybe White can try to turn the tables. F4 has been played. Forget it.
Okay. But this is very interesting, this idea to just try to get a past rook's pawn. And it's very famous in endings to know that a passed rook's pawn is really, really good against the knight, because the knight can only defend it from one side. It can't defend it from off the board. That's not allowed. So that would have been interesting. Very risky, but interesting.
Right. Instead, Santos has opted for F4, and
that was far too exciting. Stop suggesting
exciting
ideas.
I had the audacity to suggest something unbalancing, but
yeah, I mean,
who would ever think of something like that?
No. Is this a dead draw, I guess? Yeah, of course. I mean,
the thing is, right, if black takes on h4 and goes knight to g7, white meets it with knight g3, and he closes the last little sliver of, the isthmus of Panama has been closed, and that's it.
This is dead, absolutely dead in this position. There's no way black can get his pieces in, and white just puts his king here, of course. So, okay, yeah, it must, of course, be a draw. Have they played this? They have. This has actually occurred on the board.
It has occurred. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
King e6. Oh my goodness. CNN. Turn on CNN. It's on all the news networks. Shirov has played King e6.
It's happening. It's happening. I mean, okay. King f2.
Knight f5 and king f2. You don't want to take on f5 in case black does go knight f5 because that is losing.
Because then the king can sneak its way in. Yeah.
Yeah, you could play either, I guess, knight takes h5 or king f2, and knight takes h4, knight takes h5. Mutually assured destruction.
In this one, yeah. This position, yeah.
So.
Yeah. They're still trying. They are still trying. In the camera, it looks like Santos is kind of falling asleep a little bit there.
Yeah, he's leaning back.
He's getting very comfortable in his chair, so he's got to stay awake. This is a danger he might have.
Right, and the last game I think will be a fascinating one. I mean,
definitely, yeah. It's all level. It looks like this is going to be a draw. There's one game to go unless they go to playoff 5 minutes. And if there is only one game to go, Shirov with the white pieces, but either side wins, they qualify for the final. So it's going to be a very nerve-wracking last game. And I hope we get some fire on the board in the last game. Come on. We need some fire.
We have to. And with Shirov playing white, we're all but guaranteed that, unless, Santos neutralizes him in some way.
Yeah.
But Shirov taking his time here. Black has some attempts here. King f7 threatens king g6, trapping the knight. But it all works out for white because white goes king f2, and he guarantees the g3 square for his knight, and the fortress lives on.
Yeah. I don't really see much here.
Maybe knight takes d4 check, sacking the knight for a passed pawn.
Oh, that'd be a Shirov.
If he had any other pieces on the board, he would consider it. Let me tell you, but
it's a bit risky.
Yeah, something tells me he might refrain from that particular sacrifice.
I don't think that will be in the most amazing moves of all time.
No, definitely not.
That might not quite reach there. Maybe they don't know where the draw button is on Chess.com. Maybe they haven't found it yet.
No, that used to be an insult in the old Internet Chess Club days. I don't think it's a thing now. But when somebody would take too long to resign, I got that message myself a couple times. Resign button on the top right or something like that.
Okay, there is a resign button. Use it.
Yep, it exists. Yeah. But one time, when I was really little, don't ask me why I was doing this, but I was playing with a resign button because it used to ask you, do you really want to resign? And then I was like, no, I don't really want to resign. So I was playing with it. But one time I resigned, and then I clicked OK by accident. And it was a crisis because I was winning, and I never did that particular thing again.
So there's a lesson there. Don't play with your resign buttons.
Exactly. One of Aesop's fables, actually.
I can remember when
That's the moral.
Yeah, I can see that working. And I remember when I was very young, maybe one of the worst things I did, and I felt so guilty. I was probably about 7, and I offered my opponent a draw, and then he was thinking about it, and then I was like, oh no, actually I don't want to offer you a draw. I've changed my mind.
Yeah, changed my mind.
And then he sort of started crying, and oh my god, and I was like, okay, we'll have a draw. I'm sorry, we'll have a draw. So it was
that's sweet though. Yeah, you thought better of it in the end.
Did take the draw. Take that draw. Okay, surely they're going to repeat moves now. There's no way through here.
Why would you say that, Simon? It's been such a fascinating. Why do you have to kill it by suggesting that it's going to end in a draw?
They're not. They're playing on. Shirov's trying something. He's trying a new plan here, and of course, as long as you don't allow the black king into g4, as long as you stop that from happening, you're okay. And the white knight covers all of these squares combined with the pawn, so the black king cannot come forwards. And if black ever exchanges off on this square, well, in this position, of course, the white king can just move around here. There's no way the black king can come in. And this is obviously a draw, a bit of opposition at some point, but
Right.
that seems to be quite an easy way to do it. Shirov try and come here, but the king can literally move to so many squares.
Yeah, too many.
There's no zugzwang here or anything. You just keep moving your king around here. I mean, you can try knight here, check, but
Santos seems a little exasperated. Almost all right. Let's get on with it. Let's take the draw already and get on with the last game. But
yeah, I'm just wondering if there's no way you can win this. But I wonder if Shirov gets his knight to d3. No, I mean, I'm trying to find ways to win this, and I can't even find anything really.
Yeah,
short time.
It's a problem when you try finding ways to lose a position, you still fail. So.
Yeah, and you still fail. I'm normally very good at that. I'm not very good at finding ways to lose positions. I'm certainly grandmaster level at this, but I can't see it here.
Yeah, I think a draw offer is coming any second. I definitely have played my share of, when I wasn't, a GM, I played my share of stubborn grandmasters who would, they would be winning and I'd swindle a draw, and then we'd reach a position like a Philidor position. They would play it for 50 moves, just with an angry look on their faces, like a self-righteous. All right, I'm going to show this little youngling who is the boss here.
Oh, he's gone. So this is what I thought he might try to win. I thought King D2, and what if the knight sneaks into D3 and tries to go for the B pawn? But I mean, I'm really getting desperate. I'm clutching at straws here.
King H5, Knight G3 check. So here, Shirov has pushed his pawn to F5.
Yeah.
Which means that the king now has to keep himself pegged to that pawn.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Monkey Chess in the chat. Hello, Ruland is saying maybe there's a psychological aspect to this playing on. I mean, I guess there might be. It looks like now we're finally going to get the draw here. And there we repetition. Go. So good. Which does leave us in for a very exciting last round. Anything after that game is going to be exciting. Give me an exchange French and I will be riveted to my chair. Just anything at all. But yeah, we're going to take our last break. Stay with us. And the last game, whoever wins goes through to the final. So we'll be back with you very soon. Welcome back to the last game at this time segment. The match is all level, 1.5 points each between Alexei Shirov and Jamie Santos. And if either side wins this one, they go through to the final. The final to be played on Sunday. There's one more semi-final of this Lyon competition tomorrow. And I think we're both happy to see that the opening is an exciting one here. This is much more like it, Daniel. Is that right? Much more fun.
Definitely. We have a Caro-Kann. We have a very principled topical line of the Caro-Kann. I think it's known as the short variation. I mean, E5 is the advanced Shirov, true to his reputation, going for the most principled, the sort of cutthroat attempt to beat the Caro. And I think they're still well within theoretical waters. We have a very unbalanced center. We have G5 on the board. We discussed the prevalence of that move in a lot of lines these days. So super interesting, rich position.
Yes, and like I say, it's very sharp, this stuff, because both sides keep all their pieces on the board. White with the pawn on e5 gets chances generally to attack. It's a clamping pawn, that one. Even Alekhine said having a pawn on e5 gives you great chances for the kingside attack. But g5 is an interesting approach, isn't it? Very another modern approach, I think, to the position, where you gain space on that area of the board, and you can try to break even with s6 later on. I guess is one of Black's ideas, like in the French defense. This move, and maybe c5. I mean, this kind of way of playing. This could be decisive. If it is a draw, then they're going to go to two blitz games, and then there's an Armageddon game after that to see who goes on. So what? Okay, we're going to do this again now. We've seen the opening, Daniel. We both thought our draw's quite likely, but now we can see the opening on the board. I want you to predict what you think the result will be.
Man, I hate being in that position, but because I have to retain commentators' objectivity, but I'm gonna have to go with Shirov here. I just feel like his experience in unbalanced positions is so vast. I'm gonna have to go with the crowd favorite, the legend. But you might think, the young ones, they don't know how to play these positions, but that's not true anymore. A lot of the younger players, they know how to learn openings now. And but still, my prediction will have to be Shirov, as we see a4 on the board, long castle. This is as unbalanced and as unlike the previous games. But Simon, I can't make my prediction without asking you for yours. Are you on the same page?
I was going to go Shirov, but let's make it interesting. I really admire the way Black has gone absolutely mental, it seems.
Yeah, I know what you're doing here.
I'm going to go for a Black win. I will go for a Black win because I really admire Shirov. He's one of my favorite players of all time. So I kind of want Shirov to win. I'll be honest, just because I really, he's one of my favorite players. But this is chaotic. What is happening here in the game? Mental. No?
I get it. It's England and America thing again. I get it. It has nothing to do with the position.
Nothing to do with England and America. You had your independence.
Nights on the rim are dim. Nights on the rim are grim. It's
I thought you meant the 4th of July. Oh dear, I could get in trouble here. So
it's all good. Yeah, no, but I mean, I do get where you're coming from. I mean, really, just fascinating play by Black. Shirov advancing his a pawn, which is really very logical. He's trying to provoke weaknesses on Black's queen side. Santos doesn't have anything going on the king side yet, but he could whip something up very, very quickly. He could drop his bishop back to g6 and put a knight on f5. He could also play h5 and knight g4 and jettison that g pawn to open the file. But super, very rich.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, very exciting stuff here. I mean, whenever you get opposite side castling, as you have here, generally you get the most exciting games because you can use your pawns in a much more dangerous way. For example, if the Black king was on this square highlighted g8 here, pushing your pawns in front of your king is much riskier because it exposes your own king. But when your king is on the other side of the board, you can do this pawn storm because you want to use your pawns, as Santos is doing here, to try and open up the enemy's king. And as you mentioned, White is kind of doing the same with this one little pawn here, trying to cause problems towards the Black king. But it really is all about the attack. Whose attack will land first in opposite side casting. This is more Shirov style.
This is such a Shirov position, though, I have to say. I mean, he loves
It
these
is.
types of positions.
Yes, he does. He loves these messy positions. Anything complicated, yeah.
Yep.
But it was his
Opposite side
opponent.
castling.
I mean, it's his opponent Santos who decided to go into this, though. Yeah, so he has to be given credit for making this an
Definitely.
interesting one. Yeah.
Absolutely, and very principled approach. So no, I like it, and I am thinking maybe knight g6 here. I don't think anyone is necessarily better yet. I think it really could go either way.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just a complete mess, isn't it? Knight g6, getting ready for maybe bishop d6 and
Yeah.
moving the knight into the game looks very, very logical. Or even e5. Do you want to go e5? You have to be careful of a7, I guess, there. So
yeah, but maybe potentially, yeah, knight f4, bishop d6, like you point out, and
yeah.
White has advanced his pawn to a5, but if White goes a6, that could be counterproductive. Black goes b6, and you've sort of, you've drilled some holes on the queen side, but c5 cannot be occupied anymore, so it's really not easy to break through that pawn mass on the queen side.
Totally agree. Yeah. So you kind of want to use the b6 square, don't you, in this kind of position with a pawn on a5. Traditionally, you want to sort of try to get the knight to b6 to sacrifice, open up the a file somehow. But there's no white piece that can easily get into b6, even to prepare an idea like that. Could you also go? I mean, okay, so let's say knight to g6 as white. Should you try to head the knight towards c5? I mean, you could. The knight on e1 is very passive. Bring this one in.
Yeah, I'm thinking knight d3 and then knight bc5, and maybe you could rook lift to b3 potentially. That keeping that a pawn as, okay, rook g8 by Santos. So I guess he's preparing h5. I don't know about that move just intuitively. Looks a little bit on the slow side.
Yeah, you got to feel
like knight g6 is so natural. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. You must open up your opponent's king here, and I guess he's trying to somehow play these moves, eventually ending with something like g3. But that's going to take a long time. I mean, one move, two move, three move, four moves, and even when you play g3, it's not clear it's going to be that dangerous for white. I really like your idea of rook a3 and rook b3. I thought this was a very clever thing you mentioned there at some point, trying to get the rook, a target on b7. I mean, I don't know if you've ever read The Art of Attack. I recently did a video course on this
by Spielman.
No, it's by
it's by Vukovic. Yeah, Vladimir Vukovic. I read it. Yeah, I read it in John Nunn's edition. Yeah, yes, yeah, I've read it.
Yeah, the latest one. And one thing that sticks to me from that book was focal points. It was like, okay, you've tried to find a square to attack in your opponent's position. In a position like this, it seems like that is a key thing. And b7 might be the square that white wants to attack. And then you've got to think, how do I get my pieces arranged in such a situation? And Daniel, you point out, combination of knight here and rook here would be very strong if you can get that in. You're attacking then what he calls the focal point b7. So that's I really like that idea.
Great reference. I actually confused two books. I confused The Art of the Attack, which I read, with The Art of the Sacrifice, which is by Rudolf Spielman, one of the strongest attacking players of the 19th century. So yeah, also highly recommended. But I mean, a lot of fascinating concepts in The Art of Attack.
Definitely, it's really great. I mean, I had to read the book recently because I was doing a bit of work on it, but I enjoyed it so much. And all the games were 100 years ago. And it's like, wow, they could play chess. They could play chess without all this theory and stuff as well.
So they could find some moves. Let me tell you, they were just
they weren't just
kind of sitting around in Paris coffee shops, kind of throwing pieces around. They could calculate.
Even though I love that image, playing a nice game in a coffee shop in Paris with some people throwing the odd gold coin on the board. It's not like that anymore.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's have a look. After rook g8, can I go knight c5 immediately? Can we dive straight in? I mean, you don't want to waste time in these positions if you can, but is that going to backfire towards me? And just to demonstrate Daniel's idea, I just want to show if black now continues the plan without, paying any attention to white's plan. So let's say black with a rook on g8 tries to push these pawns down h5, and this very clever maneuver, rook a3. And again, if black is not paying attention to his opponent, which is one of the biggest sins in chess, and plays g4, after rook b3, you're probably lost as black, because all of a sudden this
Oh, yeah.
focal point, you can't do anything about it. And if you have to
You
play
can't shift the
b6,
focal points either. Yeah, exactly.
no, I mean b6 is horrible. You're opening up your
Look
whole
at that.
position. Yeah, we could just give up if we're playing b6. I
Especially
think.
against Alexei Shirov. You just don't make this. You would rather reside and spend the rest of your days in some cellar somewhere rather than play b6 against Shirov.
Oh, definitely. You don't want to
Another
suffer. Yeah.
another maybe slightly less central point, but if black plays g4 and white has a knight on d3, that weakens the f4 square. So to add insult to injury, if you have a knight on c5 and white plays bishop f4, that could trap the queen.
Yes. Oh, that's cheeky.
So
Yeah.
I mean, let's
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
White might not even need to attack, but
Let's see.
I don't like this move rook g8, to be honest. I feel like it's too slow, and this idea of g4 is not even anything to write home about.
No, I think I mean, it's in these positions you can't waste time, can you? Every tempo you lose in such a position, you're going to give your opponent a chance to attack. So rook g8 does look slow. What's the point of it? If you can't go g4, I don't know why you put the rook on that square, really. That's the
Knight
problem.
c5 looks so good here. I was going to point out a crazy idea of
Oh,
going
like
g4 first. G4 and then knight c5 to attack e6.
Wow, going g4 here, yeah? Okay.
But obviously it creates massive weaknesses on the king side, so probably the computer will laugh at that. But, as we discussed, White's attack comes so fast that maybe that's all that you need is one tempo.
It's not so silly at all. I quite like it. I bet you the computer likes G4. To me, that's probably it's the kind of move the computer would be like, yeah, looks really weird, weakening your king, but I love it. I love the move. And this could be quite strong because if you play Queen D6, which is not a very nice move to play, we can always now go A6 if we want to get a bit materialistic. And if you try to keep the position closed, G4 played.
Yeah.
Ah, those couple of days with Shirov, they obviously paid off, Daniel. So you guys are two peas in a pod.
Exactly, we're twinsies. Yeah.
So I'm a weak man, Shirov. Maybe you're a strong man, Shirov.
Nah, strong man, Shirov.
Is that even a thing? I don't know.
Maybe that would be. I don't know who would be like a nowadays someone in Shirov style at the very top. That would be an interesting philosophical question.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got I don't know about Jabava, doesn't play so much, but you got, Jabava's more of a Morozevich character. I mean,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, Morozevich camp. Yeah,
yeah, like completely crazy mental ideas and imaginative.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagination just exploding from his thoughts,
Yeah, from move 2. By the way, starting from move 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't mess about with his ideas.
So I suppose the question for sure now, a6 and knight b7 looks mighty tempting, even though it doesn't win the exchange. Just the fact that followed up by something like c4. But the slow roll approach is to maybe activate that knight on e1, which is still sitting unemployed. You could also lift your rook up. So white is kind of spoiled for choice here. F4 by Shirov. He's attacking on both sides of the board. Wow.
Very interesting move.
Extremely. What a move.
Yeah.
But wait a second. Is there something like, okay, so GF he wants bishop f4, but what about knight?
Should we point this out again? If you just everyone see, if black ever does take here, the black queen is actually quite embarrassed. It has nowhere to go. You're lost. You have to play rook d6 and you can resign. So you for a start, you cannot take that pawn. Brave play though, because you're moving all of the pawns in front of your own king.
Something smells wrong to me about this move though. What if knight f5?
Knight f5.
I don't know. Okay. GF, king h1. I'm trying to calculate that complete mess that ensues.
Okay, let's have a look. So knight f5, attacking the bishop, trying to eliminate the knight. And now if I take the knight, all of a sudden rook g8 looks like a genius move.
Maybe that's exactly what he planned.
He had it all planned. What a genius.
That's it. That's what it is.
Pawn takes
but the problem is knight f5, GF, king moves. You take the bishop, then I take your pawn on e6, and I'm attacking both your bishop and your knight. So maybe, but I feel like black must have something in that position. This is a crazy queen takes h2, bishop d6 idea.
We'll show it.
That's just to give one check and then resign.
We've run out of pieces. It's one of those problems again. Oh no,
Yep.
one of my major problems in life.
Don't have any coins to throw into the video, the arcade. You've run out of coins.
No, and there's no gold coins coming on this board, I'm afraid.
Oh no.
Okay, so let's look at that again. That's a really fascinating line. This game is living up to all expectations.
It really
by the
is.
way. Really exciting. And remember, either player wins, they go through to the final. And Daniel's pointed out this amazing concept, a knight f5. If you can get this to work, it's the move you want to play, because you start all of a sudden black's pieces jump into life. And the concept is to give this check and to take on e3. But unless there's something that black can do after pawn takes e6, it might not be working. So you need to have some kind of miracle move here.
Well, maybe bishop takes c. Maybe simply bishop takes c5.
Bishop takes c5. Okay.
I have no clue what's going on in that position. None. But I'm still suggesting moves.
It's okay. And if I take on f7,
knight f5 played.
Knight f5 played. We're gonna get it. Whoa.
We are going to get it. I don't see Shirov shying away from this line. No. He might have missed knight f5, but I don't see him dropping his bishop back to f2, because then black eliminates the knight on c5, and I think it's smooth sailing from there.
Wow, what a line. What a variation this is.
This is going to be, nobody will want to leave their seats. This is going to be a fascinating climax to this game.
Definitely. And they've both got 14 minutes left. It's Santos, let's remember, we picked this extremely brave opening to play against one of the best attacking players in the history of chess. So if he can pull something off with black here, he should be given a massive pat on the back for that one. But is this line working? So it does seem critical. Take, king h1, pawn takes e3, pawn takes e6. And what is Santos's idea? Maybe, as Daniel said, bishop takes c5. So we can investigate this a little bit longer. If I take on f7, first of all, let's have a look at this.
Right, that's the problem, I'm afraid. And I was just going to sack a piece for a long-term attack. I was just going to suggest queen f7.
Yeah,
but I'm afraid black might not have enough. D takes c5. And we run into a problem we had earlier where all the squares on the g file are covered. That knight on e1, in another stroke of genius, is covering that square on g2, which is a potential mating square.
I was trying to make knight e4, knight f2 work in that
position. Me too. Yeah, we think a lot. It was exactly what I was going to say, but a stupid rook on f7 captures on f2, and it's still not over.
I know. But unfortunately, let's just show this one. We're both absolute lunatics,
Yeah, we are.
We're trying to make this one work.
Exactly what I was thinking.
There's still a threat of checkmate there.
It's just that whiff of something, but it's quashed by knight g2.
Knight g2, and we've run out of pieces yet again. So
no more coins to throw in the parking meter. Yeah.
There's many amazing variations here. He has taken it. We're going to see this occur.
We are going to see this. I am genuinely excited to see. This is what you live for. You might play a boring game here and there. You might get a few yawns, but this only happens in chess. Like this type of beauty, this type of excitement, you don't get it anywhere else.
Yeah, suddenly any it can just spark to life in some brilliancy like this.
And this is exactly where you don't want the engine on, because that kills all of the fun. That's like watching, I don't know, a buzzer beating shot in basketball and having a robot that tells you whether the shot's going to go in when Stephen Curry releases it. Sorry, that was a basketball reference, Simon. I know they're not hot on that.
What's basketball?
Exactly. Sorry, I should compare it to I don't know who's a British soccer player.
Football.
David Beckham. Oh, he's in America now. I see.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's moved to America.
Football. Well, excuse me.
What's soccer? What are these things?
Football is a game.
Basketball and soccer.
Football is a game with people like Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterbacks.
But, dear, I'm just really confused now.
Europeans are not big on that either.
No, I used to actually watch the American football a bit. Chicago Bears when I was a lot younger. I used to like.
Mm-hmm.
That was many a day, moon ago.
Chicago Bears are not that good now.
No, they were the best when I was following them. They were pretty damn good, but not anymore. Okay, well, going back to the position, let's just have a look at this potentially forced line one more time. Do we have any more moves? No, we don't. So it seems here that Well, maybe black is thinking about throwing in bishop takes c5 now. Is that what he's potentially? Because then you stop this pawn takes f7. So one line we looked at, black can take here, check, uncovering the rook, king h1, and then black can take here, and this is all very forcing moves. White takes on e6, and the problem with this line potentially for black is if you go bishop takes c5, white doesn't have to take back on c5. White can instead throw in this move where you are attacking the bishop and attacking the rook. So there is a potential another move order which he has played.
He's done it. He's played bishop c5. Good call.
He's played this one, so he's trying to just switch the move about. And this is a very common thing to do. You got, everyone can learn from this in tactics. If one line's not quite working, if you switch the move order of that tactic around, it can suddenly work in a much better way. So this does seem more of a logical first move to play, I'm guessing, Daniel.
That's exactly right. It's a great point. A lot of people abandon lines without checking what happens if you switch the move order. Even with two move sequences, you have to, well, what if I play the first move second and the second move first?
Yeah.
Now, Shirov, of course, does himself have a choice. You can take, it's like you're standing at a buffet. And do I start with a steak? Do I start with a salmon? Like D takes C5, F takes C6, or F takes G5? I think F takes G5 is the most inferior of the three because black can drop that bishop back to E7 and preserve his booty. But F takes E6 is definitely to be considered. This is so complicated. I mean, this just shows you the limitations of the human being.
It's too complicated for me.
Yeah, this is impossible. Even probably for Magnus, this would be too complicated. Maybe this is what Magnus does for breakfast. He just, let me calculate a couple of these positions while I eat my Norwegian herring. I don't know what he eats from breakfast.
Norwegian herring. I like it. It's very healthy, fresh Norwegian.
Can you imagine Carlson eating like what a Fruit Loops or I'm blanking on that cereal I love with the marshmallows. Jesus, what is it called? Lucky Charms. Can you imagine Magnus eating Lucky Charms?
I can see him having a Lucky Charm now and again. Not impossible to not picture. I think he's more of a healthy herring guy. I feel.
Yeah, I agree.
Lucky Charm guy. I know for the World Championship matches, especially the one in England, he had his own chef come with him, from Norway, so he could get all his foods cooked to his preferences, which makes a lot of sense. I mean,
it does, yeah. And that might. Yeah, exactly. To the people who, that's so snobbish what he can't eat, and London doesn't have enough restaurants. But the reality is, when you're playing such a high stakes tournament that's so stressful, all of the variables need to be taken into account. It's not just for show. You really need to be comfortable on every axis, in every dimension. The slightest imperfection, and it affects your stress levels.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, it's such a big event as well. It doesn't matter if you spend an extra couple of £1,000 if first prize is $1 million or $2 million, as well. So
exactly,
use any advantage you can get. I mean, thinking about going back history of World Championship matches, just while we wait to see what Shirov decides to play in this immensely complicated position. I think one of the most interesting was the Karpov versus Korchnoi, not a world champion. Well, it was actually the World Championships when Karpov apparently employed a hypnotist to sit in the audience to hypnotize Korchnoi. Korchnoi therefore put on sunglasses so he wouldn't get hypnotized. There's so much going on behind the scenes in those old famous matches, for the World Championship match.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They didn't like each other. But fascinating stories.
They sound like best friends. What are you talking about? And Fischer Spassky too. I mean, hung out after every game.
I think they did. I think they did like each other, didn't they? Fischer and Spassky. I'm not sure. They did at the end.
I think there was a respect. Yeah, there definitely was more of a respect for each other than oftentimes people spin this narrative of worst enemies. But many of these cases, they have the deepest respect for each other.
Like Geary and Carlson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The
modern day. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. You got Karpov and Korchnoi and Geary and Carlson. Yeah.
Sunglasses have been replaced by tweets.
Okay, so we're looking at this position, and someone in another move has been suggested in the chat.
King H1 or some Zen Buddhist approach.
Knight G2, yet another move. Some sensible move to defend the pawn.
F takes G5 flip. So it occurred to me at first I thought this was the worst of the captures, but then I think it's in terms of the captures, it's the only move because again, I fail to see how the Santos's move order impacts the position. But now I've changed from thinking that this is maybe unsound to thinking that if Black plays bishop to e7 here, I mean, White's king can get caught on the crossfire very, very fast. Zero clue what's going on still.
It's so complicated. I mean, the one thing that has changed in the position, we were 5 minutes ago talking about b7 and White's attacking ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Who cares about that now?
Exactly. I mean, one thing that's become clear here is it's the White king, which is now more exposed, but Black's pieces are also much more likely to drop. So it's kind of changed the essence of the position. Will White's king, because the bodyguards, your pawns around your king, essentially your bodyguards, and you don't want your bodyguards to go running off when you're in danger. And they have gone running off looking for booty or down there some of these pieces. But is that going to backfire? White has a lot of pieces around his king, so these pieces can all be used to defend the White king. So it might not be that bad. To assess his position, I wouldn't even like to try to guess who's better here. To be honest,
Yeah, it'll be wrong. I don't want to hazard an evaluation here. I'm going to get laughed at.
Bishop e7, by the way, has been played, so we do have that on the board.
Yeah, those pawns on g5 and f5, it's like when you're playing capture the flag and you get caught on your opponent's territory trying to pretend to be on the other team. These pawns are about to get eaten up.
They are, yeah. I mean, are they strong? Are they weak? This is the question. Often the case with the pawns, and I don't know. Okay, so what can we actually play here for what to
do? Yeah. I mean, he can hide his king on h1, hide in quotation marks, and then we get hg, and the smoke finally clears. F takes c6, bishop e6. He goes bishop f4. He adds another layer to this tension. He says, no, I'm not going down that easy. But okay, what now? Queen d7 or bishop d6 or sack the queen?
Is there another? Oh, bishop f4 has been played. Okay, yeah. So this has been played. Yeah, I mean it is like h2 is looking a little bit juicy in some of those lines. So at least the bishop is trying to gain a better square. But I mean, my first instinct would be if I was Black, play bishop d6, get rid of that defender, try to keep that line towards White's king open. So let's have a look if bishop d6 is the way to play or not.
Queen d7 played. Okay, why do I have the feeling this game is going to end in a draw? I don't know why. Something is just, there's this voice in my head. But now you see, what White can try to do is go knight to d3 and reactivate some of those old urges to attack on the queen side. And just say, you know what, I'm going to let you take g5, and I'm even going to let you take f5. Look at how magnanimous I am. But then I'm going to put a knight on e5.
Knight on e5 would be a lovely square for the knight in this structure. So let's have a look. So if we go knight d3, trying to jump in, I expect Black will play pawn takes g5. Why not? Mm-hmm. You're threatening to take the bishop with check. So knight e5 does not work now because the pawn takes bishop check. So I can work out some of these things. Even here, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, this is still very messy. Let's be very clear.
Yeah, I don't even want to. I certainly wouldn't bet my house on it. Oh, he has gone knight d3. So he is trying to come in. So, but a much more natural move after this one would just be to retreat the bishop to g3. Look at that bishop. That is a really powerful piece. That's why as Black, I wanted to play bishop d6. And now if you take on f5 in this position, well, knight to e5 looks very natural. And then something like queen e6. Can you do this maybe?
Maybe, possible? Yeah. And we had a move. E takes f5. Wow. Okay, so he's doing that first.
Okay, so he's decided to take this one. Does it make much difference? So, I mean, knight e5 looks very, very normal to play.
You could flick in a6, b6. He goes knight c5. This way.
Okay.
I think what he wants is after bishop takes knight, pawn takes bishop.
Yeah.
He wants to play a6 at some point and use that c5 pawn to discourage Black from going b6.
Very clever. Yeah. So
I don't know if that's good or not. Black has taken g5. He's done what he has to do.
Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look. So he's taken here, taken on g5. And now White's got to think what to do with his bishop. So bishop d6 bishop e5 was the other option, gaining a tempo on the knight with a6 to come. And when white was trying a6 before, as Daniel pointed out, b6 kept the position closed. But now you can't play b6 because after white captures on b6, you open up the black king. So it's a pawn sacrifice for Shirov, but he has got a beautiful bishop and he's got this a6 move to come. And he's doing a very clever thing. He's using his opponent's pawns here to guard his own king. In some ways, black doesn't want the pawn on g5 because he wants the open file. So it seems like now black's attack has died down and it's Shirov who's going to have a go at attacking. Okay,
right.
Queen e6 though.
But, he's played Queen e6 with tempo. Shirov can actually take on f6 and then take on f5.
Yeah.
But that would signal a bit of a bailout. I feel like, the problem for white is less so his king safety and more so like the central pressure that black has started to put on white's bishops. He can go rook to e8, and eventually that knight could come to g4, and black could reactivate his attack very, very quickly. It's not like white plays a6 and it's checkmate. Black could ignore that and buy himself a few moves.
Yeah. So if I played Queen d4, are you going to play rook to e8 or something? Is that the idea?
Probably, yeah, rook d8, yeah.
As pointed out, you can take here and start bailing out with this move. And the tactical point is bishop g4. But you've lost your lovely bishop then. So knowing Shirov, he'd probably want to try and keep this piece if he can. But it's not easy to do so. The pressure on the e-file. So if you go Queen d4, you're not really even threatening to win a piece because the queen takes e2. And if rook on d to e8, all of a sudden black gets this pressure. You take on s6, black takes on e2 here. And again, black's king looking safe, I think. I said that very cautiously.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think it's safer in relative terms at this point than white's after that line. So
there's nothing else that can be done after rook e8, is there? There's no.
Well, maybe you move your bishop away immediately, but then definitely rook e8, and again that attacks e2. So yeah, you would love to play queen d4. If only you had like a rook on e1. You see how these tiny modifications in the position can really change the evaluation.
Yeah.
That's just a hallmark of this top level chess and everything. Oh, by the way, queen d4. There's also knight to d7. Ugh.
Oh, right, and actually just saying I'm going to win a piece.
I mean, I don't know if that's the end of the story. White can play bishop d6 and a6, but
sure. And this is
the mess goes on.
The mess goes on. I suppose black has queen g4. Oh no, because the bishop's dropping on f7.
Right. I thought about that as well. It's one of those cases you blunder knight d7 and then you claim you've made this genius sacrifice. I've definitely had my share of those games where I've had blunder something and I tell everybody else how much of a genius I am for sacking it.
I've done that many a time. I mean, everyone has to know grandmasters never blunder; they only sacrifice. Exactly. It's never ever a blunder if a grandmaster.
Sometimes you tell that to yourself. I saw that. No, totally anticipated.
So after queen e6, I just don't see. I mean, if white does play bishop d4, it just feels like white's going the wrong way because your attack against the black king is much less powerful now. Maybe bishop d4 is that other option you can do, but it feels wrong. Bishop d4 to me. So Shirov's got he's done it.
Yeah, bailout. And I think he just realized that there's really just nothing else remotely appealing. Oh, he's worse. He's definitely worse here because his king is wide open. Now, it's not like black is threatening checkmate, but he is threatening a very unpleasant check on e3, and the queen on d1 cannot go to d4. That maybe it can because the f7 and there's so much tension in this position. Nothing goes without tactics here.
Yeah, definitely everything's tactics. It always comes back though in opposite side castling, whose king is safer at the end of the day. Shirov still has the a6 move to start some attack, but there's no protection at all around the white king. So black is better here. Simple threat, just taking on c5 with check as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Which is quite annoying to face here. Winning pawn.
It's not a pawn you want to just give up. I mean, maybe you have to, but it's not a pawn you want to give up. Yeah, I totally saw that was the threat. It was a sacrifice. Bishop g4. Loading up the battery, the discovery against the king, but Santos could just sidestep it with king b8. And he also makes his king a lot safer in the long run as well.
Yeah. Time as well is not in Shirov's favor.
No, not at all.
He's got 3 minutes and immensely complicated position now. I guess he's thinking, does he grab the pawn on c5 first, or he probably can't do because bishop on f7 would be, weak in the ensuring lines. But king b8 looks very natural. Just move the king.
Yeah, it's also just safer. I mean, I think you might be able to get away with queen c5. I've been trying to calculate that line, and I think you can play queen takes c5 and then bishop e. Ooh, bishop e6. There's another psycho line. Queen takes c5 check, king h1, bishop e6, rook takes d5. Sorry, I raised my voice, and I'm just very excited. Rook takes d5. Can you do that to bail out?
What is going on here? Don't do that to me. Don't do moves like that to me.
Rook takes. He split rook f7. He split rook f7. Another incredible move, rook f7. So he's banking on his activity to guarantee him counterplay. Very Shirov-like move.
Okay.
Very similar idea. And his idea is if Santos takes the bishop, he's going to take back, and then he might flick in that move a6. And that b7 square in a twist of events can be now accessed not by the knight, but by the rook, also with potentially devastating effect.
It's kind of position where Shirov could be doing very well. I mean, he's activated his rook. He's got another idea in some positions of sneaking the queen in via g3, to try and enter into the position with check. So there would be danger after rook f7 if white is able to get the queen over to g4. What other options can we see here for black?
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I have this lingering sense the game is going to end in some sort of perpetual against white's king. I don't know why, but I keep thinking that.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Sometimes the most interesting games end in some perpetual check, don't they? So
I'm a pessimist, but you know what white could also do? He's taken on g4.
Hey, he's gone for it.
White can bring his. Who's better?
Do you think?
Who's better? I think I like Shirov's position. I think rook e1 is also something to be considered. Trying to bring the other rook to the 7th rank. It's a tiny bit slow. I think in either case, a6 should be probably thrown in.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe with a preliminary check on g3, but I think you have to do it.
I think you must play a6 there. It's such a natural move to play. Try and get the b7 square few pieces. Just get rid of a little bit of protection of the black king somehow. I mean, if you go a6, black then has to make a decision. Does he go b6? Does he take on a6 as well? Let's say I don't know what's best here. Is even taking on a6 the best way to try and stop the white pieces coming in? But that looks risky in its own right as well.
Right. If you take on a6, white might have queen g3 and queen c7, driving that queen in. And then if you play queen b6 in response at the end of that line, white simply takes the queen and then starts snatching off, in fact, 3 pawns in a row, a6, b6, and c6, all with check.
Bang.
Exactly.
Potentially bang.
Yeah, all with check.
And then we see the Shirov technique coming into
exactly. Yep. Nobody leave their seats. We might see a rook endgame yet.
Yeah.
So
a6
played. Yep, not surprising.
Down to 2 minutes 23 for Shirov against Santos's 8 minutes. Santos been time up throughout the match, but things are clarifying a little bit. So I don't think, when you're down on time, if you've got a simple-ish initiative as Shirov has there, it's not so bad. It's when you have to find very precise defensive moves you could get in trouble.
Right. There's another problem. If b6, queen g3 check, and black blocks with his queen d6, again, it's this illusion that all endgames are safe. Well, they're not. White can capture the queen, go rook e1, then he doubles on the 7th rank. And let me tell you, this 2 rooks in combination with the pawn on a6, the scariest tandem in chess, because that's basically forced mate. Using b7 as an anchor square, you could basically ladder checkmate him on a8.
Yeah, it looks very tricky. I mean, this is the kind of reason. Okay, he's gone b5. So he's trying to keep his queen.
That makes sense.
In range of a7. So that's a good defensive try.
It's better than b6, that's for sure, because the queen is keeping contact with. And I guess rook e1 is interesting.
Rook e1, and if you try your queen to g3 check again, queen d6 probably doesn't work. This time you've got c5 though, which might
help your defense. Good point. That
So
looks
if
a
I
little
go,
bit like a draw. After
if I go
c5.
rook e1, c5, yeah.
Yeah, rook b7, you start bailing out.
Oh, you start taking all these. Oh, I don't know. You start taking all those pawns again. It's still a mess.
It is still a mess.
I mean, if the queen does get to c7, how dangerous could that be for black? Is it going to be dangerous? You've got queen b6 there, haven't you? To defend.
Yeah, and then again, who knows how to evaluate that? So maybe you just keep your queen on c7, go rook e1 again.
Rook e1. Yeah. Okay, come in. Same
So
again.
okay, Shirov's got to make a move. I mean, the position has clarified somewhat, but he still has less than a minute and a half now on his clock.
Yeah. And if rook e1, let's have a look at that. So you suggested rook e1, and if black plays rook e8, can you play rook e8 in that position? Let's say rook
you sure can.
For example.
Trying to create some counterplay also.
Trying to create counterplay with a queen g1 in some position. So if white now, for example, took here and tried to play queen d7, which might look winning, black can then start his counterattack by coming to g1. And in these positions, both kings very exposed, but whoever gets to their opponent's king first will probably win. So I think white will be losing this particular variation.
Queen g3 check chosen by Shirov, as sort of we expected. And now black, another decision to make. Queen d6 or king a8.
Yeah.
And both might potentially lead to endgames, which are very messy, but you know, we know what tendencies rook endgames tend to have. So.
Yes, we could be going to playoff. I mean, I guess queen d6 makes some sense if you can get rid of, as long as you can get rid of this a pawn. And the big difference between these positions and when black had a pawn on b6 is that after an exchange of queens, maybe not straight away, black has the move c5 when the rook's attacking here. So rook e1, c5. And we showed this line before. So actually, yeah, and if you go rook to e1 straight away, trying to avoid that, black can take on g3. And he can stop your rook coming to e7 by playing rook e8. And again, white doesn't quite get what he wants to get in these positions. So saying all that, king a8 has been played. So he hasn't gone for the ending straight away. He's gone for this one instead in the position.
Yeah, queen c7, queen b6. And like you pointed out, white just doesn't quite have time to get his rook to e7. Rook e1 met with rook e8.
Yeah, and this move is always... I feel still looks dangerous for black. Don't get me wrong.
Definitely. No, absolutely.
But I mean, yeah, you can't.
If you Shirov's time is really concerning me though. b4. Okay, it makes sense. Played. It makes sense. Okay. I mean, he's queen b6. He wants rook b7, probably almost boxing that queen in.
Wow, b4, Shirov.
There's an amazing line there. Oh, it almost works. I was thinking about sacking a rook on a1 potentially, but if black takes the rook on a1 with check, he can then travel and take the a6 pawn. That might seem like an insignificant thing to say, but there are lines where white can try to leave that rook there.
So if we go after b4, the idea of this is to try and drag that queen away. Okay, so queen b6 has happened, and you would have thought rook. Oh no, not that move, but you would have thought rook b7 is Shirov's idea. Queen d4.
Or c3 first, you could try, but rook b7 looks like the time trouble move to make queen d4, c3, and then maybe queen f4.
So I'm messing up the mouse here. So rook b7, potential line, queen d4. Your rook's on pre. It doesn't look like it's a killer blow for white because...
It's been played, by the way. c3, it's all been played.
And now black can gain a little tempo with a check here, if he so wishes. But the big sort of threat for white is queen c7. It'll probably end with a perpetual, the queen checking on g4 or something. You know.
Yep, queen f4 played.
Okay, so let's stick with the game. So rook b7, queen d4, c3, queen f4. Aha. Not throwing the check in first, but just trying to get the queens off the board.
Right. Rook e1, very logical by Shirov. And something that we kind of predicted, rook e8 is going to happen probably either immediately or upon a preliminary queen trade.
Isn't this a very uncomfortable ending for black? I mean, let's just have a look. So in this position, rook e8's being played. I'm just wondering... Okay, he hasn't swapped.
Oh, rook takes e8. He can throw in queen f1 check. That's a draw.
Oh, immediately.
Perpetual.
Immediately. Yeah,
Oh, and it has been played, and he's thinking. The fact that he's thinking means he sees queen f1 check, and he's played it. It's going to be a draw. We are going to the playoffs. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It always happens this way.
Always.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's
There we
official.
go. Most exciting game. Of course, it's going to end in a draw. There's
Of course.
no doubt about it. But a very exciting game. That was an excellent game. Best game so far of the
Absolutely.
competition.
From both ends. Absolutely.
Brilliant. And
Well,
just
we're
yeah, I mean, just to let you know what's happening next. So they played 4 games. It's ended in 2-2 draw, and that means they're going to go to the playoffs, which is 2 games of 5 minute plus 3 seconds of move. So anything still can happen. If they end in a 1-1 draw, it's an Armageddon game between these 2 players. And we should be, I feel, I don't know if we can have a break or if they're due to start the games quite soon. So we'll just wait and get confirmation. Obviously, we
Yep. I
don't
think a
want to miss.
short break is what we're having.
Okay, short
But
break.
are
So
we? Yeah. I don't know if we're going on a break as well.
sure. Well, let's grab a short break and we'll be back soon. I think. Yeah.
Yep.
So makes sense. Well, we're back again for the tie breaks, which is going to be extremely exciting. Let's just go and have a look at the scorecard there so you know what's going on. We have got to that bottom bit, the tie break section of
Yep.
the semi-final, with both players getting to one. They've had 1 win each and 1 draw each, so two points each. And this will mean there's 2 games of 5 minute plus 3 seconds a move. And if that is still tied, there'd be a final Armageddon game. And there's another match tomorrow. The winner of this goes through to the final of the Lyon Chess Festival. Well, I mean, who do you think's gonna triumph? I mean, that was a brilliant last game. Very brave play from both players, especially Santos there, who's played very positionally up to this point, but he went for it in that game with the black pieces.
Yeah, he did, and we see that they're pretty evenly matched in terms of rapid rating. I really think they're very evenly matched. Anything could happen. I'm just hoping to see a different opening when Santos is white. Hopefully, he realizes the urgency of needing to score a win with the white pieces. And I think Shirov's a great blitz player. I'm not too familiar with his rankings in blitz, but I think it's going to go down to the wire again.
Yeah, they're going to be very exciting games. I mean, I think we can see both players are getting ready. The games are going to start any second now, and this is one of those situations where you blink and you're going to miss it. Very quick. We probably won't show too many variations, but stay with the actual games played in the competition here. It's gonna be great. Great finish to the first day of the Liam Festival.
Yeah, it's going to seem like bullet compared to the 20-minute games. Even though 5+3 is for blitz standards, that is pretty on this definitely on the slow side.
Daniel, that might be slow for you. Still far too quick for me. I mean, I'm an old man now. Give me that long increment. That's what I need. We're okay. We are in. I'm just going to flip the board around. Please, no exchange Slav. No exchange Slav.
No. Okay, don't take on D5. Don't take on D5, please.
Don't do it. Don't do
it. Don't do it. Nope. No.
Oh, he's done it.
He's done it.
He's done it. He's going for the grind again.
I'm probably he looked something. I mean, he definitely should not be going for another quick draw. I mean, that would be ridiculous with white, right?
Yeah.
But he's going for the exact same line.
Exactly, and he didn't really get anything out of the last time he played this. So, what's his idea? And Shirov's Bishop D6 was the sort of he's done H3 again. Okay, Shirov hasn't played Bishop D6,
and here we see Bishop D3 again. Deja vu. Yeah.
Maybe you should play Rook C1 here. This would be a very he has.
And I think may I now suggest Rook C8 for black?
Okay,
may I be so presumptuous as to suggest that move?
You can be presumptuous. Just and then they swap draw. Is that what we're gonna have? Oh no! Come on, guys. And Santos, come on! You got to show.
Yeah, it's really on Santos. I mean, Shirov is just doing what he normally does. You can't when you play the Slav. You're not going for a boring position, but you can't avoid the exchange Slav. You can't play Queen takes D5 on move 3. I'm sure some psycho has probably done that, but it's not advisable.
It's not. I remember in the exchange French. I mean, I remember Hikaru occasionally took with a queen on D5, getting a bad Scandinavian, but it's not the way to do it. Not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Shirov's trying to come into C4 with his knight now. He's gone knight to A5, and
I've never seen that idea before.
Will knight to E4 occur? There's no tactics of Bishop C7, is there? That's something you've got to watch out for.
Good point. Absolutely is. Knight E4. I mean, you could play knight E4, Bishop C7 actually, and try to get a knight to C. You could do kind of a positional tactic. Try to get the knight to C5 at the end. Very interesting idea, actually.
Yeah, knight E4, Bishop C7, and the point of this is we talked about the relevance of the C5 square, and if you play in this way, you hit here. I mean, Shirov will probably sack his queen or something, but if he doesn't,
leave his queen on D8.
The knight does get to that square. Okay, back to the game because I've got to move.
The other instantiation is if B3. Well, I guess Shirov wants knight D6 because if knight B6, then knight takes B5 is possible, followed by Bishop C7.
Standard trick here with that bishop coming in. Yeah. So B3. Yeah, centralize that knight, get it into the central squares. I don't see where the advantage is really here for white. This Bishop B7, I mean, I've been exchange Slav player. I've never really looked at this, but it makes a lot of sense to give yourself knight E4 as a move. Yeah?
Right. Well, very sure I'll move knight A3 in response to B3 has been played.
Yeah. Interesting, because he knows knights on the rim are dim, so he's whacked it on the side, or grim. It's a grim knight on the side.
Yeah, but I don't know about this. I mean, this is very committal. But on the other hand, again, that C3 square for white is very weak, so... Yeah, there might be some give there on that C file. Bishop G5.
Bishop G5. Interesting.
Threatening Bishop F6 and knight D7 potentially.
Very nice idea. I like Bishop G5. Very good move. Because also stop knight E4 because you just take on E7. There could even be, if you get rid of this knight, some attacking chances in some cases, but combined with F4 at the right moment, and this is an ideal world. But Bishop G5, that's a class move. That's a very good move.
It really is. And if Rook FC8, I mean, you mentioned attacking ideas. Bishop takes F6 and Bishop takes H7 check. Maybe that doesn't yield more than a draw, but it needs to be considered.
Well, let's have a look. So if this did occur...
It's played. Rook FC8 has been played.
Wow. Okay, so maybe white has a draw immediately, if he wants to, by taking here, taking on H7, bringing the queen in, hitting this square. I mean...
Yeah, but at the end, you could take the bishop on B7.
The bishop. Has Shirov blundered? Well, he's got C3, but then
he does, but that rook on A8 is hanging. So it's another one of those calculation slugfests. But let's not forget, Black's king is very weak in that line, and he's down 2 pawns.
Yeah, oh, come on.
91. That is like the most anticlimactic moment ever.
I mean, the guy played like a lunatic in the last round, and now he's playing.
Right.
Now he's putting his knight back on B1. What's
I'm
going
sure
on?
Shirov's side, and I'm sure he just breathed a mental sigh of relief.
Definitely, you would do. Let's just show that variation very quickly. We were pointing out here that white could have taken on this square and then played bishop takes h7 check. Maybe, I don't know what black can do. And if he takes here, queen h5 check and taking on f7 check, and white has at least a draw here. But if taken on b7 works, maybe even more. That did not occur. Instead, the rather negative move, knight b1, much more positionally minded, had happened. And now h6. Can you go f4 here? Come on, do something like f4.
He's played
Just
bishop
do it.
h4. I'm sorry to say. Sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings.
Boo.
Exactly.
Okay.
Rook takes c1. Here we go with this again. Trades down the. White is still better. I think white is definitely in the driver's seat here. He's got increased control over the c file, and he's got those squares. But I don't know, trading of pieces here. No, white has a crunch here for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's no denying that.
And at the moment, there might be some ideas of the queen sneaking into d3. But okay, I think Shirov's last move is in order to defend the bishop, so he can now play knight to e4, which he couldn't do before because he was losing the bishop on e7. But in this situation, that knight is free to move because he's guarding the bishop.
Right.
But I do agree with you that white's pieces look a bit more scarily placed. You can even play like f3 if you wanted to, couldn't you? Here, just trying to even go for
Limit
g4
the knight, yeah.
something like that. Put the queen on.
Yeah,
d3.
you could do that. You could play bishop takes f6 and just get rid of that knight entirely. And then go either knight d3, knight c5, or queen h5. Knight c6 play. Okay. Again, going for the very sort of positional continuation, rooting out one of the bishops, takes.
Yeah. This guy needs to attack more. After that last game where he went for it, he's. I suppose queen c2 is now a very nice square for the queen with threats towards black's king and on the c file. It's still an edge for white.
Yeah,
must be in this position.
No, it is. It is for sure that pawns on the queen side are weak.
Yeah. How nervous do they look? Well, Santos doesn't look nervous at all. He's got Shirov, interesting concentration going on there.
Right.
He's gone back. Okay, so queen c2, is that not working? That's the first thing. I don't think it is because the king can run.
Yeah, not enough there. I think you have to go either bishop g3 or bishop g3 makes sense to preserve the two bishops. Yeah. Okay, bishop e7. Yeah, never mind.
Keeping it simple.
Now bishop d3. Okay. Switching places and a4 is an idea.
And the one thing that white can say that is his advantage is just the traditional control of the c file, yeah? With queen c2 and like say a4, try to win the pawn on a6 to come.
Old school, just queen c5 is an idea, just positional crunch. These positions are very hard to play in blitz. Shirov trying to open up some space on the king side, evacuate his king to a safer location. The problem isn't really his king, it's really those pawns and just that, just looks nasty.
Yeah, white pushing for a win here, no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
These pawns are very weak. They're on light squares. White's bishop is attacking that. White has domination of the one open file, and he has many ideas. He can go for a queen exchange, aim for a4, and a4 very natural. He's played it.
Yep, and after b takes a4 and a5, that exposes the b5 square. So then the problem won't be the pawn as much as just white's dominance over the queen side. That's been played.
Right. And b5 now for the bishop. But I think Shirov had to keep that pawn.
He did.
Really, if you lose the a pawn, you'll really
struggle in such
a position. It's holdable, yeah. Not
definitely holdable with active play. Yeah, he's going after that a pawn. Is Santos queen c3 probably incoming?
Yeah. And can Shirov save that pawn if queen c3 is played, or does he try to gain counterplay? The white king very safe. There's not really.
Yeah, I don't see how. Maybe just queen d8 needs to be played, and then rook c8. You go back to e7, and at least white has taken the gas pedal off of that pawn.
Yeah, but it does seem like still a chance for Santos with the white pieces.
Right. Exactly. Queen d8 played.
Yeah. Only way to save the pawn.
Right. And it's not easy for white also to devise, because if white overpresses, his pieces can get tangled up. And as soon as black activates his rook, let's say, down the c file, I mean, the initiative is very, very fragile here for white.
Yeah.
Maybe a4 was slightly premature. I don't know. Yeah,
he could have built up the position potentially more there. Now he's gone in with this move, and I think Queen E7, of course, forced.
Yep.
Can he go Bishop B5 here, or is there a Rook C7 or something to eliminate? Maybe.
Ooh, Rook C7, maybe Rook takes E8, but there is knight D6.
Knight D6, yeah.
And maybe Queen C5 also. I had this idea, just getting a passed pawn on the C file, but Black doesn't have to take the queen on C5. He can try to hold the fort with, let's say, knight D6 there again.
Yeah.
But
okay,
a lot
but
of this,
gone for your idea. Queen
C6.
C5. White's piece is certainly better. The pawn on A5 bit more weaker than White's pawn, and if you can get a past C pawn, you'll be in a good situation. They have about a minute and a half left. They're getting 3 seconds to move, so it's getting again critical. Still holding on for Shirov at the moment. Remember, there's one more game after this, so whatever the results, they do get a chance at fighting back and leveling it. Well, whoever loses, if there is a loss or even a draw.
Right, exactly. So decision here for sure. Knight D6 played. Okay, he could not have taken the queen. That C pawn would have been too far advanced. Rook C6 immediately by Santos. So what he's trying to do probably is, knight F5. So that gives the possibility of G4. Queen bishop takes F5 also possible.
Can you take the knight, take the queen, and go Rook A6? Give him a chance. I mean, just go
that
for a simple.
Nasty for Black.
Yeah, he has taken it. I mean, maybe you have to throw in queen takes queen here, but then pawn
which
takes.
He does. Yeah, that looks super nasty. Also, White's king can run up just to lend some support to the pawn. Or you could play rook. Okay, rook takes C5. That surprises me a little bit. I thought DC should have been considered.
Definitely. White's still better because you've got to
look
at the activity of the two rooks. Black doesn't really want to lose that pawn. Very good move there, H5 there. You want to swap off as many pawns as you can, try to get a draw. More likely to be a draw this than a win, I feel. But there's some... I say that, then E4 comes.
Yeah, but the problem is king G4, and Black's king acquires a very high degree of activity. It comes to F4. And even though White will be up a pawn, I'm not sure it's going to be enough to win the game.
True.
And this happens.
Yeah. So White is going to win a pawn. But Black's king heading towards E4 at the moment, it looks like. And here he comes.
Rook E5 cutting the king off. Now Rook D7 is to be considered. Swapping
even F5 and Rook G7 just... Okay.
Ooh, interesting.
Here's another way. Rook D7. Yeah, Rook D7 is the safer way.
I feel like that's F5. He goes for your line.
Yeah, it's going F5.
But Rook, I guess he's not in a hurry. He can go Rook D7 the next one. No, that's got to be a draw now. Santos has let him off out of the cage here.
Yeah.
Will we have an Armageddon?
Well, I think there's one. I think there's one more game.
There's one more. Yeah.
So, but it could be if it's a draw on the next one. This must now be. There's not enough material on the board. Draw.
This is a dead draw. I mean, the king can just stay on F4, sheltered by that pawn on F5.
Put your rook behind the pawn. Worst case scenario. Yeah. So,
Right.
Yeah, it will be a draw. First one will be a draw. Next game is going to... Okay, someone wins the next one. They have won the semi-final. If it's another draw, we get an Armageddon game.
Right, and definitely a missed opportunity for Santos. I really felt like he was on the verge of breaking through, but just didn't quite find the right transformation, which is totally understandable. There were so many options.
Yeah.
And the more the merrier does not always apply to chess.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think you're right in saying A4 could have been rushed because that move was always there. And it's the famous Nimzovich quote that the threat is stronger than the execution. And, now that he's played it, it wasn't going anywhere. The reason this is a draw is just two little pawns on the board, and Black has got his rook on the best position he can. You want to get your rook behind your opponent's pass pawn. We talked about this before. King H5 looks very accurate.
It's a great move.
Yeah, it does. It just stops White's rook getting, to this position. We also talked about where you want your rook when you have the extra pass pawn, and in front of the pawn is the worst square. It's definitely the worst square. Next to the pawn is better for White, but behind the pawn's ideal. But in front of the pawn, there's just not much room to maneuver this rook in this position. So it's an easy draw now. Unless someone does something ridiculous and
no way to make progress. Not even an attempt here for White. He just cannot leave that pawn.
He can't get his king anyway, can he? Either the king is stuck on G2. So
Rook A7, but Black can do anything. King F4, just move his king back and forth.
The white rook doesn't have enough oxygen here to maneuver. As soon as it moves away, you take here. So they're going to agree a draw. There you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And the second game going to begin momentarily.
Yeah.
Santos not looking too happy.
No, that might have been his big chance. Yeah, possibly that one to take the lead. Shirov's been very dangerous with the white pieces, and they're straight in now. Shirov with the white pieces immediately, and he has okay. They're going
another Caro.
They're going for this again.
Yeah, fascinating. This time in a blitz game, so it's going to be even more of a pressure cooker.
I'm looking forward to this one.
I know this has got to be decisive. That'll be all too fitting.
Definitely. Can I predict that if we get the same position, Shirov won't start going G4 this time? He'll
go for the attack.
Yeah, no messing about with G4 this time.
As completely agree.
It was.
No, it was and especially in a blitz game, it's such a high maintenance move.
Yeah.
Same exact line. Man, I like they're repeating the lines, but I kind of like that. Rook G8. There we go.
Oof. Okay, so he went G4 last time. I'm predicting he won't do it this time. That's a very risky move. Very risky.
Yep. If he plays it, I don't think he's going to play F4. I think he's going to go knight to D3.
Totally.
He goes knight C5. You're absolutely right, Simon.
Okay, and now you might do your rook A3 idea. Oh, he's got
A6, knight B7. We talked about this as well, and then probably C4.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love the idea of repeating exactly this move order with black. I really like Shirov's position here.
It's risky, yeah, very risky.
But kudos.
And we think C4 is coming in. We're actually being told that in the last game, by the way, Daniel, you know that tactic you pointed out with Bishop H7 was probably +4 for white. So when Santos went to passive to positional, he had a nice position, but he missed a tactical blow.
Just winning in the spot, yeah.
He was winning on the spot. And this often happens in chess. You play positionally, and you get a good position, but at some point you have to take the risk and play tactically.
Exactly. You got to transform the position. You got to sense the moment when to switch gears, but it can be hard. It can be very tempting to keep playing positionally. You get comfortable.
Yeah.
So now it's a battle on both flanks once again. Shirov going down the C file. He's probably going to go rook C1 either before. Yep, he goes rook C1.
Let's rook C1. Whose king is going to open up first? It looks to me the black king is more exposed, but I don't know. How do you open up the white king? Not easy to say, but
right.
Is Shirov's threatening to take on D5 and maybe even bishop B5 or something?
Yeah, just throw the kitchen sink at that C6 pawn. It's the softest target.
Yeah, this is a target indeed. So taking now on bishop B5.
Maybe ED and rook E6 is a defensive idea for black. Just beefing up that security on the pawn.
Yeah. Now, one thing you don't generally look at doing in these positions is grabbing a pawn on the side of the board where your opponent's attacking. I mean, you might be able to do that. Computer might do that, but it's not really a blitz move to do. You look at your opponent's king and you say, I want to have you, son. I'm going to checkmate you.
Yeah.
So this is more Shirov style as well. Queen A4 makes a lot of sense here as well.
It does.
I guess. And maybe even B4, B5 then. You know, if you go B4 in this position, pawn might be captured. So even that's unclear because then Queen A4 in there could be extremely interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking also about going a move that looks terrible, C5, because it allows black to lock up the queen side with B5. But then I was thinking about quickly piling up on that B5 pawn, trying to sack a bishop for it. Not sure about it. It's speculative, but also something to consider for sure. If he's got to watch his clock, though, cannot sink too deeply into thought. Got to follow your gut instincts.
Yeah. Definitely, I prefer white's chances here. It seems like white has the quicker way to break through. Santos doesn't even seem to be looking at the board. If you look at his camera, he looks so relaxed. Doesn't he realize he's playing one of the best attackers ever and he's about to get mated? Someone tell him. Okay, here we go. So
CD.
the C file is open.
Seat belts fastened and mandatory.
It's all gonna kick off soon.
Face masks on ED. Yep, he's gone for this defensive resource.
Yes. Now that we got many moves, B4, he's gone for the most natural, attacking the pawn on C6.
Queen A4, your move, Simon. Piling up on that pawn. Bishop B7 defending. He needs more resources now. Knight D3 is possible, but see, the problem is if this backfires for white, black starts going after white's king. Knight F4 and Knight G4 could come in succession. Knight D3 played.
This is a Shirov game, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. Only Shirov could have a knight on b7 just casually. Knight f4.
I know. Knight f4 in. Any result possible.
I'm not loving the trend of this game for Shirov. I feel like
No.
that G file, that rook G8 move. I mean, we criticized it a little bit, but it's very forward thinking.
It is.
But 95, who knows what's going on?
I don't know. 95 must be played, and it is played.
And it is.
Again.
Rook takes c5. Is that to be considered? Just sacking in exchange for that, saying you get out of here?
I would certainly consider playing that move. I think
that's
what
he does.
Played it. And G2 is now looking really, really could turn around where black gets his attacking on G2.
Maybe bishop f3 and rook e1. That is one benefit of the sack for white, is he's gotten the e1 square for one of his rooks, potentially.
Definitely.
Open file.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to give e2 a little bit more protection at some point for white. Bishop f3, you know, you do have to defend occasionally in chess. So,
yeah.
You know, just
I think it's got to be played. It's got to be played. I mean, that G2 square again. Less to save the bishop and more to defend that pawn. He has played it.
So which side would you take now? This is a tricky situation.
Yeah. I do like white. I mean, maybe bishop h3. I feel like the game is going to be decided in the next couple of moves. Like, we'll see.
Sure. Yeah.
Queen b3. I do like white, though. The knight takes c5 is threat. It just seems like things are starting to crumble ever so slightly for the black king.
Yeah.
Which probably means black is winning. If I say it, it means the opposite is true. c4 or something.
Can you play knight e4? This is something I would. It looks a bit over the top, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit risky because this.
Maybe rook to d1 there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe c4 and just driving a wedge in.
Sure.
Knight e4 does look interesting. I mean, no doubt about that.
Yeah. Could be a little bit over the top knight e4 as well, because you're very nicely defending d5 here, and if you start playing pseudo aggressive moves, they can backfire very easily. Bishop on f3 is a key defender at the moment, and let's remember white is the exchange up. The threat here seems to be just rook to e1, so c4. Yeah, he's played your move.
c3, and this we might see an endgame. We might see an endgame, which is a very unbalanced endgame. We do.
We have the ending. How is this knight on b7? Is this knight good? Is it bad? It could be bad here.
Well, it has d8 as an escape square.
Yeah. I'm surprised Shirov went for the ending this time. I'm thinking here black should be okay, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a complete mess. Probably 0-0-0 according to the computer, as it often is in these positions.
Of course, it went with a perpetual check or some.
Yeah, some sort of fizzling out, peter out of the position. So rook fe1, I think. Bishop a6. He wants knight to d8, and that knight is going to travel through c6 down to d4. I think we're seeing knight d8 here. Yep.
Okay.
Bishop a3 meets with rook a1, counterattacking the bishop. So that's not a problem for white. He's not going to lose his knight. That is not how the game is going to be decided.
No, the knight is coming out now.
Should be fine.
Fire one of these two squares to, yeah. So bishop d6, normal move. And if we count material, it's bizarrely equal if you're just doing it on points.
Now this knight completes its victory tour on d4. Look at that beautiful outpost.
Very nice square for the knight.
It's survived the Hunger Games, and now it goes back victorious. I mean, knight e7. He wants some more. He hasn't had his fix yet.
Shirov doesn't go backwards. He only goes forwards. Okay, well, this is the tactical idea is to try and come in on a7, gain that extra tempo with the knight.
a1, he comes at it from the other side.
Yeah.
Rook takes a7, king b8. I mean, black is still holding things together. That's only one pawn. Rook a2 is possible. Maneuvering the rook to e2.
Can you flick in an h4 and then rook takes b7? Try to simplify
it into some better opposite color bishop ending. Very interesting idea. He's thinking about that for sure.
Just try to keep it safe. So this rook's defending here. So I want to take on b7, take here. Maybe h4. Maybe h4 is playable, possibly. I don't know. Just keep it. Well, I say simple. It has been anything but a simple game so far.
He might still play it. He's thinking.
He's thinking about it.
He's got two decisions. Does he play h4 or does he move the rook? And if he moves his rook, probably rook a2 is the best, because that way the rook has prospects of going to e2 or d2.
Yeah.
But who knows? Again, this is crazy.
Time situation.
h4 is tempting for sure.
It is, yeah. I mean, just especially when your time's ticking down. If you can see a way to, liquidate to something which looks very safe and maybe gives you winning chances, then you'd probably do it with 1 minute on your clock. So
Right.
does it work? I don't know. But he's got now under a minute left. Black has 2 minute time advantage in the position.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
It is big. Yeah.
He's agonizing over this. Does he play H4?
Yeah, he's got to decide soon.
He does.
God, just ticking.
Yeah, he's got to decide right now.
Just play it. I think it's about time he just played it anyway. Play it.
Yeah, you've crossed the boundary where if you play Rook A2, that position is going to be so hard to handle with 30 seconds. Yeah. Oh my goodness, he's below 30.
It's probably a draw at H4. We might see it, so I don't want to make any moves on the board in case we miss the action. But
20 seconds. Rook B7. Okay, so he's going for it.
He's going for it. So this is the other way you can do it, and now you can play. Maybe you can take on D5 first. Even does it matter?
Maybe.
This is simple.
Rook E5 here is a draw, I think, but White is definitely the one calling the shots. But I think it is a fizzle out draw.
I think it's a draw, but H5 is on the light square, so it can be moved.
But is it a draw? Because Rook E5 takes, knight takes D5, and then Black doesn't have to take the knight. He can go King A6. And White's got to watch it because Black could create two connected passers on the queen side.
King A6, right.
Yeah. Whoa. I assume that he has to take the knight and then it's a draw, but he doesn't. Yeah. And he's played it.
He's played King A6.
Oh my goodness. We might be seeing a turn of events here.
20 seconds. 20 seconds.
Oh man, this is concerning. King F1. Now knight takes D5 and B5.
Yeah. Or B5 knows? First, one of these two.
It could still be a draw, but definitely Black in the driver's seat now.
Equal material, opposite kind of bishops, generally very likely to be a draw. But look at this Black king, which is diving into the position here.
King
Black's
B5.
pawn's further advanced as well, giving him that extra chance.
And we've got connected passers on either side. Black's obviously farther advanced, but is this a draw? Shirov is banking on his pawns. But King F2, I don't know. Bishop G6, B5. So
what Black would like to do is get a pawn to B3 and a pawn to C2. This is how he can try to win it. Does White have to try and do something? He has to bring his king over to stop this.
Right, he does. B3, Bishop G3. Okay, so he starts by making sure White's pawns are not moving. Yeah. Makes sense.
Nice blockade on White's pawns.
Can White blockade Black's pawns is the question. Can he tie his bishop to the pawns? I don't think he can. B3 and King B4.
Yeah.
This is lost. B3. B3, King B4, C3, and then bring the king to B2 and go C2. The legend goes down.
It looks like it. These pawns so dangerous now. Look at the camera. You can see Santos has kind of woken up now.
Oh, yeah.
So 12 seconds left for Shirov. It'd be sad to see Shirov leave, but Santos has played really well, especially he's played this dangerous Caro-Kann line against one of the best attacking players ever, and it's worked perfectly. He's just going to be the king there.
He's
so you
won.
can see the disappointment in Shirov's face there, but well done, Santos. He played brilliantly in those games to do it, yeah? So.
Oh, yeah, especially this last game, keeping his composure in a super tactical position.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So we will catch our own breaths and let the players catch theirs. But what a match we've just seen. A real treat.
Definitely. We will be back as well. So we won't be gone for too long. We're going to try and get an interview to finish off this show today. And it looks like we're going to get an interview with Shirov, which will be fascinating. Unfortunately, it's always a bit tough interviewing someone who's just lost a match. So we'll go easy on him, but we'll be there very shortly. Well, very exciting match, and we're very fortunate and honoured to be joined by a real legend of the game of chess, Alexei Shirov. So it's a real pleasure to have you here, Alexei. I'm sorry the match didn't go the way you wanted it to, but some exciting games there, in the Caracan especially.
Yeah, I think in both Caracan games I was better at some point, but okay. He calculates a bit faster than me.
Yeah, these youngsters nowadays, they can calculate well, can't they? I feel so. But yeah, I mean, very exciting variation there, and good finishes in the Caro. But the exchange Slavs, did you feel you were comfortable in those games?
Yeah, I felt more or less comfortable, but okay. In fact, he always created some small pressure, which I think in all three Slavs I kind of underestimated his play. So, and well, in the first game I played this knight before 94 idea, which I think was okay. But then in second game I wanted to change from the beginning to play bishop d6, and then in third game in third black game, I tried to get back to that position. Then I played this bishop e7, and then okay, rook c8 and knight e5. And again, he got some serious initiative. I think at some moment he could get a clear advantage. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was lucky in that game, but then not very lucky in the last one.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate finish for yourself there in the last one. And I think there was one moment in the last exchange Slav game, just before you played h6, your opponent played knight b1. Maybe he could have captured on f6 and taken on h7.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I already felt that I did something terribly wrong. Yeah. By the way, just a moment. I think I need to get sound higher. I don't know where I can do it because I think my sound is on a very low level now. Okay. Can I minimize this window?
I think most people can hear you okay. I'm sure we can move it up at our end as well. So I think I can hear you nice and loud and clear anyway.
Yeah, same.
Because I don't even hear you well, so I really would like to.
Sure.
I think you can raise your volume, your computer volume, but it looks like people can hear you.
Yeah, because okay, I had it on. The problem is with all these things, I don't know. I don't know.
I think we only have maybe one more question left, so we can. Yeah, if you can hear the questions, I think we can hear you. I was just going to ask one last little question about online chess, and do you think that is it easy for you or hard for you to adapt to chess being played online, and what do you think are some of the general challenges that chess faces as it moves online?
When I got the invitation for this tournament 2 months ago, I realized that I have to at least practice a little bit online. And okay, I played some tournaments, and what I noticed is that online you play even more irregular than a normal chess, because in normal tournaments somehow you tend to concentrate for every game, but online you're basically playing from home, and okay, you're in a relaxed mood, but sometimes it works well and sometimes it doesn't. So I realized that it's very difficult to control your state of mind, in fact, when with all these online tournaments, because I mean, you're simply at home, you feel fine, but then okay, at some moment you play well and some moment you play bad. Okay, today I did not exactly play well, so I have to admit.
Yeah.
Well, good insights. We definitely appreciate having you on, Simon. Any last words before we let Alexei take his well-deserved break?
Yeah, not really. Just thank you so much for being part of this. I mean, I know
there is no break. I mean,
rest. I meant to say rest.
The final without my participation, so I can talk the whole night if you want. So now this kind of online adventure is almost over, because I was basically playing all these online tournaments because I wanted to practice before this one. Now as this one is over, okay, I don't know what I will do next.
Well, hopefully you'll get invited to many more tournaments online. I mean, lots of people love your style of chess and the way you play. So if there's anyone out there, do make sure you invite Alexei to more tournaments. We want him playing more. But thank you so much, Alexei. Anyway, I think we're going to move on now, and good luck for the future.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexei. And so we just had the honor and privilege of being joined by Alexei. Match didn't go his way, Simon, but absolutely fascinating affair. And I think the rest, the other days of this tournament hopefully will be just as interesting.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's round one, so we got more chess tomorrow and the final on Sunday. So tomorrow, I mean, again, more legends of the game playing. We got Dominguez, who's a incredibly strong player, and he's battling it out tomorrow to have a chance to play in the final, which will be on Sunday. The same format tomorrow, the same starting time. So I hope everyone can come along and watch more chess tomorrow as well.
Absolutely. I'll be definitely excited to watch. I will not be joining for tomorrow's broadcast, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the games. And this has been fantastic, fantastic games and such a fun match.
Yeah, and again, last shout out to everyone in the chat who's followed the match for the whole way through. Such a great community in the chess world. So thank you all massively. And thank you, Daniel. First time I commentate with you, and it's been an honor. So
likewise,
thank you so much. So
it's been great. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we've left you with some fascinating games to review.
Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.